Sometimes I think about, does love still exist? Yeah, I have my doubts. On the street, I check out how brothers be living. Yo, let's just say, kid, it ain't no Thanksgiving. We got people shooting dope, ain't never heard of hope. We got others with the gat and the brothers with the fucking scope. As I enter the project center rec rooms, some brothers might see the doom. I see my nigga Paulo, fat pockets of papes. He knows the neighborhood biddies with all the dopest shapes. There goes Rollo with the blowout fro. He's got a gap, hey yo niggas gots to go. No show is live with narrating, fuck Memorex. My nigga Rollo's got a gat at Paulo's chest. One slug blasted out, down boy died. Now show me some love, kid, it sounds like a fucking
yes, you
lie.
know the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong.
Sometimes I think how the world come to this, a place where every man and woman needs a therapist. Mass confusion, people living in delusion, justify all the bullshit through the Constitution. Meanwhile, the masses struggle to survive. I think we're too busy to hear our people's cries. Singles mothers struggle to raise families. Genocide committed through famine and disease. I wonder if these things will ever cease to exist. I know it could if we cease and desist. Giving all the power to the industrialists, giving all our power to the damn commercialists. They see us just as being sheep in this world, that want us to do what we're told like boys and girls. Oh God, I wanna live another day so I can help provide equality
And
this
yes, you know
day.
the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong.
Everybody round the globe, open up your earlobe, your third eye, and then decipher the code. Through knowledge, understanding, then bring love into the concept instead of bling bling. Truth instead of biased educational methods, twisting, contorting God's message of love for every human being. Listen, motherfucker, don't you hear the screams? It's time to do much more than talk, debate, and spread hate. We need to think and at the same time investigate, understand what our actions may create. Before continuing the cycle, we procreate. We can clone humans, but at the same time, we can't feed humans. The future of man is actually looming. It's really depressing, it's true.
And yes, you know the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong.
Two. Yeah, this is January the 30th, Friday. It is 6:11. That would be 1812 Central European Time. That makes it 12 noon Eastern Standard Time America, and that would make it about 9? Is it 9? Something like that. 9 is right. 9:12 Pacific Time America. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is crazy, for some reason, I know what it is. It's a good distraction. It's great. It's not a great distraction when you're the one in the pen, when you're locked up. But this is obviously just another berserk distraction from the Epstein files. I mean, there's nothing about it. If you go into this law, if you read these laws that he's being detained, that he's being arrested for, it's just embarrassing. It doesn't make the administration look good. It doesn't make the administration look good. It makes the administration look foul as hell. It makes the administration look like a complete and utter joke. I really don't understand. I understand it, but it's hard to really get it fully because nobody's seen such a berserk administration in my lifetime. I've never seen it. Even the people, Reagan era was pretty drastic in the U.S. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there was a lot of things that seemed scary and were worrisome. You had the Iran-Contra scandal. We had that was a lot, by the way, because we went to war. We had to go down and invade Panama. I mean, then we had the Cold War. There was a lot to that, right? That would scare you, right? That you would think you would be scared by, right? But nothing scares a person more than a lunatic as president, and that we have found in the United States of America. It's such a damn shame. So it's going to continue every day, rapid fire. Bah, 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 bah. One loony act after another loony act after. It's just going to be total chaos. And to be honest, I'm even starting to think that the military is going to drag Trump out of office. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at this point if it's the military that ends up dragging Trump out of office, because how much craziness can you take at the hands of a defunct Congress, defunct Senate, defunct Supreme Court? I mean, how much craziness can you take? Of all people,
former
they
CNN
want to lock up
and a former
Don Lemon. They want to lock up Don Lemon, man. What is this? A fucking South Park episode? I mean, they want to lock up Don Lemon. What the hell has Don Lemon done to anybody? I mean, but left CNN probably at Trump's request and move on to make a better, to continue living life, his best life. And yeah, it's crazy. And they're going after him for being a news journalist, just for showing up to say, hey, what's going on here? Let me interview people. They arrest him.
colleague of mine and friend, Don Lemon, has been taken into custody by federal agents, according to his attorney. It comes after Lemon covered the protest earlier this month, dozens of anti-ICE protesters rushing inside of a church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, Don has said that he was just there as a journalist, photographing the incident as a journalist, asking questions as a journalist after the protesters went in.
Right. So this is basically what this is like, it's totalitarianism. They don't want journalists to be anywhere. They don't want any type of journalist. If you're a journalist and you can be around doing the news, you're only going to get respected if you're doing pro-Trump news. It has to be a setup. It has to be a scam. It has to be set up so that it looks good for Trump. Otherwise, it's just, you risk your life. You risk being shot. We've seen how ICE have shot journalists with rubber bullets, people that were literally doing nothing, not attacking them, holding the microphone and with another camera on them, reporting the news, just like the news is reported every day. We saw a woman get shot in.
The protesters went in and has been very clear.
This is the First Amendment right. Trump is coming after the First Amendment right. He's coming after the Second Amendment right. He already went after the Fourth Amendment right, illegal search and seizure, right, to detain people without probable cause. They're getting away. They're removing effectively across the United States of America each civil right given at the birth of a nation. Rights that people gain through blood, through winning a war, through fighting and shedding blood, their ancestors. These are the things that Trump are just picking away with, like it's just for show, like it's just fun. Oh, well.
He was not part of the protest group. In a statement, Don Lemon's attorney says, quote, "This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court." Now, I just want to quickly let you know, Don Lemon spoke with Allison Camerata, another former colleague and friend from CNN, who now works for Scripps News, about the church incident. Let's go to what she told us just moments ago.
So he said that he was covering a protest. This is the St. Paul church. The protesters had reason to believe that the pastor there was an ICE agent. And so the way Don described it to me is that he was doing what we do. He was covering a protest. He wasn't conspiring with them. He knew that they were going to be protesting something. He wasn't in on their plans, he says, beforehand, which is one of the things that the DOJ has suggested. And then he stayed outside, he says. The protesters went inside the church. And when he realized that the protest was unfolding inside
this is exactly what they said. I mean, let me see. Go ahead. I'm going to let this play. It's so interesting. Everybody thinks everyone thinks it starts with them. Nobody thinks that after the first group is taken care of, they move on to the next group because there's not enough.
The church, he then went inside. And so, obviously our legal experts can describe whether that's trespassing on private property, but either way, that's a misdemeanor. And, the idea that Don Lemon, as a journalist, has now been arrested is just in an entirely different category.
Now, I have some more breaking news. We have just learned that another independent journalist who is very popular here and very well known here in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, Georgia Fort, has also been arrested. We have now seen video of her inside of her home telling us that there are FBI agents outside of her door demanding that she come out. She said that they said they had a warrant, that they had gone to a grand jury. So this is brand new breaking news. She is describing what is happening.
Okay, so look, we have some users in the chat. Let's find out if these are American citizens. All right, one person, I'm sorry, I got to erase this because this is a bot. Look at this. User, this is the name. User HU8SF5UZ9F says Trump's not doing none of this. Okay, let me get rid of that one because that's obviously a bot. Okay, next. Francisco Duran. Not really sure. Are you an American, Francisco? If so, let me know what state you live in and who your healthcare provider is. Francisco says God's going to clean his house and Don Lemon is part of that getting cleaned out. That's what he says. Is he an American? Probably not. James Miller says, love you, Trump. James Miller. State and healthcare provider, James. Please let us know, James. Or you could just leave it like this. Nobody have to believe you're American. I don't, but let's go on. Babanoosh, a distraction from the Trumpstein files. I think it might be. That's even what Don Lemon said. What's more important, Don Lemon or the Epstein files? You tell me. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about Don Lemon and shit. Now I have to think about Don Lemon too, just because he locked his ass up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the hell? Come on, man. Let me see here. User HU, I'm not a bot. Okay, he didn't answer the question. So we're gonna put user HU. I said state and healthcare provider, and he said I'm not a bot. Okay, that's a clear sign something's not right there. All right, let's continue.
Saying that the federal agents say that they had a warrant, that there was a grand jury involved, and that she must come out to be arrested. She said that she spoke to her attorney. Her attorney advised her to go with them. And that is exactly what she did, and that she was taken to the Whipple building. So
okay.
Now.
So this is a clear escalation by the Trump administration, right? The Trump administration is not winning. It's pretty much losing public sentiment. And this is what I was saying the other day. It's a downward spiral. It's going to start speeding up. The downwardness is going to start speeding up. So listen, folks, I don't think you're going to have too many days to be able to buy a goddamn gun in the United States of America. I'm telling you, I am very sure Donald J. Trump is going to try to invoke the Insurrection Act, and to do that is a way to stop people from getting access to guns. I'm telling you. So don't waste any time. Go calmly, go professionally, go peacefully down. As soon as the gun shop opens up, and buy a gun. And on top of it, go peacefully down to your local state office, because you don't need the federal government to do this, right? Unless they want to block your rights, like call the Insurrection Act. Go right down, register, apply for a registration of a weapon, you know what I mean? And apply for a registration for a few, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you, this is a downward spiral, and it's speeding up downward, right? Because the Trump administration knows it's going to lose the elections, and it's really scared. It's acting out against the Democratic processes. It's acting out against media. It's acting out against election boards, state election boards, right? It's acting out against all the pillars of democracy. So expect it to speed up and keep spiraling down.
There are two.
Oh, right. And invest your money in gold, because this is also going to trigger the U.S. dollar to dump this. And the reason why I say that also is because the EU is watching. And the EU has a lot of U.S. treasuries. And because the EU is trying to hold up democracy and things like this, and it's looking at the U.S., asking itself every day, what do we do with these U.S. treasuries? And it appears that the EU is about to dump them. And that is going to hit the dollar big time. So we'll just pay attention. Pay attention. So I would say put your money in gold. That's what I did when Trump came in office. It's 3 times the value now because I anticipated the dollar sinking with Trump coming in. This time, I think it's going to continue to sink and get worse than it's ever gotten before, like straight up.
Journalists who have been arrested. Agents say that they had a warrant, that there was a grand jury involved, and that she must come out to be arrested. She said that she spoke to her attorney. Her attorney advised her to go with them, and that is exactly what she did, and that she was taken to the Whipple building. So now there are 2 journalists who have been arrested by the FBI, by federal agents, after the incident that happened at a church. Joining me now are CNN's Kara Scannell and our chief media analyst, Brian Stelter. So, Kara, what are we learning about the situation with Don?
Yo, check this out. Did you all subscribe in the chat? Are you subscribers? Your opinion is okay, but are you subscribers? So I'm going to put the chat in subscriber mode. Yeah, because apparently you don't want to be around long if you're not a subscriber. So like I say, nothing is for free. Yeah, this is not a welfare shop here. This is not government welfare. This is not the U.S. military. This is not the goddamn Congress that gets taxpayer dollars for doing nothing. This is not the Senate. This is not the goddamn Supreme Court. Yeah, I don't get paid off government tax dollars. This is like my actual show that I do on the side of my actual job. So I'm the one that controls it. So my view of it is that if you're in the chat and you're not a subscriber, you might want to go up and hit the subscribe button if you want to remain in the chat on 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So now let's continue, because I got subscribers. I got to look out for their time that they're having. They got to have a nice, pleasant time also.
Out of her home, telling us that there are FBI agents outside of her door demanding that she come out. She said that they had a warrant, that they had gone to a grand jury. So this is brand new breaking news. She is describing what is happening, saying that the federal agents say that they had a warrant, that there was a grand jury involved, and that she must come out to be arrested. She said that she spoke to her attorney. Her attorney advised her to go with them. And that is exactly what she did, and that she was taken to the Whipple building. So now there are 2 journalists who have been arrested by the FBI, by federal agents, after the incident that happened at a church. Joining me now are CNN's Kara Scannell and our chief media analyst, Brian Stelter. So, Kara, what are we learning about the situation with Don Lemon?
Well, Sarah, we do know that Don Lemon was arrested last night in Los Angeles in the 11 o'clock hour local time. I'm told by a source that he was in a hotel lobby on his way to an event related to covering the Grammy Awards, and that is when he was arrested by the agents and taken into custody. It is expected he will appear in court in Los Angeles this morning, and that the charges against him will be unsealed. Now, as we've been discussing, Lemon was part of a larger attempt by the Justice Department to bring charges against a number of people, some from the protesting group, last week, and that the judge had rejected that complaint against some of the individuals, including Don Lemon. He had suggested if DOJ wanted to go forward, they might want to look toward going before a grand jury. So that would follow the process that played out, where the judge did not believe that there was sufficient evidence, but if a grand jury did, then that would be the route that the Justice Department could take. It's possible that they have returned an indictment, though we have not yet seen the document. We have not seen any updates from the court about what this instrument is that Lemon was charged in, and specifically what he was charged with. We do know, though, that some of the protesters who
Do you know what they tried to get him? What they tried to get him on last time? It's some archaic shit that goes back to the beginning of time. Damn near, it goes back to the Jim Crow period. You see what I mean? Of the U.S. Like, they tried to hit him with a law that you use against the Ku Klux Klan. You know what I mean? And people laughed at it, you know. So now they try to find something else now.
Who were there, who were not journalists, but the protesters were charged with going into the church and
One thing we know for sure is that this works for his base. His main base loves culture war. If you just keep up culture war, you can take their First Amendment right, Second Amendment right, Fourth Amendment right. First Amendment is freedom of speech. That's being taken. But it has to be done under the guise of culture war. So it has to be towards a person that, how can I say this, is not a Christian right-wing elitist racist. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be someone that can't fit into that specific genre only, right? And then they go for it. So then they're like, I'll give up my First Amendment. First Amendment doesn't matter if that person is not a extreme right-wing Christian supremacist, right? Then it's okay. Then they go after the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure. That's it. You're seeing it. You're witnessing it. Now, and then, you know, you see how it goes along now. Now, it wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to get Americans normally to give up their First Amendment or Second Amendment or Fourth Amendment or Fifth, Third, any of these amendments. Typically, you wouldn't be able to do it. But under the guise of this president using the culture war trolls, the culture war Trojan horses, it's actually working and being very, very effective in the United States of America. The U.S. democracy is falling right now in front of everyone else's eyes, and everyone is watching it, because those Bill of Rights are the actual rights citizens have, and when you fought for and died for. The Bill of Rights, yes, those are 100 years back. You know what I'm saying? They came with death. People had to fight for those rights. They didn't have them before. You see what I mean? So now you're seeing that stripped away, right? Soon they're gonna, I'm telling you, go register. Better buy a gun and start registering straight up, because they're going to try to stop that. Because overall, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, these billionaires, they know that they could fake the law. They can be corrupt. They can pay off judges. They can pay off congressmen. They can pay off senators, but they can't pay off the American people. That's their problem. That's their last problem. So they're coming for it slowly but surely. They're coming.
Disrupting.
And it's probably going to happen a lot faster than people think.
This religious service, violating.
Remember, Marjorie Greene Taylor said the Trump administration is pushing people towards a civil war. Like, that's what she said. And Marjorie Greene Taylor capped for Trump for years from she was his number one ally.
Have not seen any updates from the court about what this instrument is that Lemon was charged in, and specifically what he was charged with.
Way of Truth, what's up?
We do know,
Dennis, I see you,
though, that some of the protesters who were there, who were not journalists, but the protesters were charged with going into the church and disrupting this religious service, violating laws related to that. So it's possible that that will be the similar charge that Lemon will face. All this will become much more clear, though, once these documents are unsealed, and we expect that to happen this morning.
Yeah, just kidding. Exactly. This is what it's going to turn into. And I'm only saying this because, you know, of course, I want good to prevail. I want good to prevail. So I'm just saying this. It takes an imagination to understand what is unfolding. You know, there's a lot of Americans that will see this too late. There's a lot of Americans that will get what is going on way too late. So that's the only reason why I'm saying this, because it's happening in plain sight. It's happening in plain sight. You know, the Nazi Party did not go after Jews first. You have to understand that. They did not go after Jews first. Do you want to know who the Nazi Party went after first? It wasn't the Jews. The Nazis did not begin by arresting or killing Jews first. Their persecution expanded step by step. and initially targeting several other groups before the mass murder of Jews, right? Now, that was their main target, but they didn't start there, right? Same thing in the U.S. Political enemies came first. You see that? Political enemies came first, not Jews. You see? So when Hitler took power in 1933, the first people arrested were communists, socialists, trade union leaders, because they didn't want people earning a fair wage at work. Political dissidents, people like Marjorie Greene Taylor or any other Republicans that don't go along with the program, those are the people they arrested and killed first. That's what I'm saying. So you all know this ain't about just black people. This ain't about because black people are a minority, like what, 13% of the U.S. population. So it's not about that. That's not going to be good enough. How many Jews are in the U.S.? So you know this ain't just about Jews. You see what I'm saying? Like, the fact of the matter is that this is about most American people.
To then, as this will then continue to play out. I mean, as this new arrest tells us, Lemon was arrested last night in Los Angeles. This other journalist was arrested this morning, if there are other arrests related to this, because not everyone was charged in that initial complaint that the Justice Department was trying to charge. They could be playing out this morning, so it may be an instance where we do see additional arrests. And then
look at this. Somebody said Don Lemon interrupted church service and plotted. He deserves whatever he gets. Were you there? Let me ask you, Kevin, does he deserve death by hanging? Kevin, does he deserve death by hanging? What about, does he deserve the same thing that a person deserves if they threaten to kill and hang the vice president? Okay. Does he deserve what the people who threatened to kill Mike Pence get? What did they get? Should he get a pardon? Should Don Lemon get a pardon? Or should he just go to jail and die? You see what I mean? Look, you're worried about Don. Look, you're literally worried about the First Amendment. That's what this is.
we do eventually.
First, they come for journalists. Exactly. This is what they're going to do. Because look, to be able to kill more people, they have to keep, since you have TV, they have to get all the journalists to agree in legacy billionaire media groups to shut up and stop reporting. That is the first thing. After that, you know how many white Americans are fucking on drugs? What do you think they're going to do to you? What do you think they're going to do to you? Just let you go? You think you're not undesirables? They're going to get rid of any poor white American they're fucking getting rid of. You better understand that. Like, you're among the undesirable groups. You're not worth the investment. You don't deserve help, according to these people. You don't deserve compassion. Like, I'm just telling you.
Actually see this charging document and understand.
Listen, the EU, the more extreme this gets, the more the dollar is going to sink, and that is going to decimate the United States of America's economy. Everyone, every middle class person, no matter who you think you are, no matter if you think you're in the in group or not, you are finished. Once that happens, once people dump the dollar because they see chaos in the U.S.,
what charges they are specifically facing. As you said, Lemon's lawyer, Abby Lowell, says that he will fight this vigorously, and that, it is not unprecedented for journalists to be charged, but it is also very unusual for journalists to be charged because of their First Amendment right to cover events and certain protections that journalists have to participate in capturing news. So there is definitely going to be a big fight here to come on behalf of Don Lemon and most.
Look at this. Alex said, you don't see it. Y'all don't see it. But he says, I think he's a troll. Because, usually the system only blocks. It has a way of knowing, the kind of comments. Look, he said, just stay out of churches. Just stay out of churches or what? Just stay out of churches or what? Why? First Amendment right doesn't you're not allowed in a church? I didn't know that. I mean, is that the case?
It's likely this other journalist as they fight back on these charges, which
I mean, that sounds right if you're MAGA. MAGA people are like, nope, First Amendment right does not apply to churches.
his lawyer is saying is unprecedented attack.
But do they get tax write-offs? Let me see something here. Let me see something. Let's see here. Okay. First Amendment rights do apply in churches in the United States. Okay? So, yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, you can do a lot. You see what I mean? But the issue is that here's the thing. The church is not the police. The police are not supposed to take the side of a church. The church has the right to remove people as it sees fit. They even have the right to call the police. But listen, if you're not there doing anything illegal, then it applies. And so there it is.
On the First Amendment. And as we have seen, the president and his attorney general have gone after people that Trump does see as his perceived enemies. Don Lemon is particularly one of those. Sarah?
Yeah. Kara Scannell, thank you for your report.
You know what? I'm going to find that interview so we can have it ready.
And getting us caught up to speed. We are
I want to see exactly what was going on in that church.
expecting to see any time now this morning or
I mean, they arrested another journalist, too.
perhaps into the afternoon, the charges, because this has to go through court and it has to be made public. Brian Stelter, now that you are learning that there are two journalists who have been taken into custody, one of whom we know well, our colleague and friend Don Lemon, the other who is very well known here as an into custody, Georgia Fort. I saw her just the other day. She was covering the Ilhan Omar incident. What does that tell you about what the Trump administration is doing here? I mean, the First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason.
Imagine being able to build.
Yeah, I don't think too many. This is the thing. Journalists like Don Lemon, he's been working with CNN, and CNN is packed full of lawyers. So they know exactly what the limits of journalism are. So Don Lemon has come up under CNN. So he knows what the limits are, what those limits are, and he knows them by how can you say this, by precedent. You see what I mean? By actual events that have occurred where the First Amendment has been invoked, gone to court, all of these things. So that's the thing about it. So it's very likely there's nothing that will go through a court here and work, which is why it's obviously a distraction from something else. It's ludicrous. Even the first ideas that they were trying to put out were preposterous, like some laws from the Jim Crow era and shit that were made to limit the Ku Klux Klan. They tried to charge Don Lemon with. It's ridiculous. They weren't even trying to be serious. But the one thing that they did do, follow the pattern, is they tried to invoke that law because they wanted the cultural element, the culture war element to be plain sight for everyone to see so that their base would buy it, so that if they wanted to use it to limit First Amendment rights, Second Amendment right, Third, Fourth, Fifth, Amendment rights, right, the Bill of Rights, you would go for it because the cultural thing would be more valuable to you. And that's exactly what people are saying right here.
Reporting in America. And I would also put it in the framework of protests. This is part of an ongoing pressure campaign against protests, especially the kind of provocative anti-Trump protest action that we have seen makes the administration so uncomfortable and frankly makes some voters very uncomfortable. This is an action, this arrest of Don Lemon, this arrest of this independent journalist who is live streaming and reporting in Minnesota. This is something that some MAGA loyalists have been demanding. They've been wanting to see it happen. When Trump promised retribution, this is the kind of retribution that some of his voters, not all, but some of his voters wanted to see.
Exactly. This is what Trump sold them. Retribution. Retribution for what? Retribution for what, though? You know what I mean? They were angry. You know what it was retribution for? For Obama being the first black, half black, or whatever you want to call it, non-Anglo-Saxon man to ever serve as president of the United States of America. They wanted retribution for that. That's all that happened. And now they want to storm the Capitol. It's like all retribution, just from one. Haven't even had a woman be president. The United States has never had not even an Anglo-Saxon woman be president. You know, that's what this is about. Culture war. This is not about anything else, you know.
And I think that is, for better or for worse, some of the context for what we're seeing this morning. In this, you know, the First Amendment is meant to protect both a reporter's right to report, but also a congregation's right to worship. So legal experts might say this is somewhat complicated, although Lemon said all along.
Yeah, they wanted Obama's birth certificate. This was like, they want retribution for that. He still ain't shown it. These people are so goddamn dumb. You know, it's like, okay, what about the people in Puerto Rico? Where's their birth certificate? Where's their birth certificate? U.S. Virgin Islands, where's their birth certificate? Do they have that? Where is it at? Where is it at? Where is it at? These people are so stupid. You can be born in an American territory, which makes you an American citizen, even if you can't vote for Congress. You see what I mean? It's just like that. I mean, these people should know that, especially when the president wants to buy Greenland. What do you think? He's going to give the Greenlanders voting rights for Congress and Senate, full rights on the floor of the Congress and Senate when they haven't done that for any other U.S. territory yet? I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Come on.
He was there as a reporter, not as an activist. And he did a really important job showing people, all of us now who can watch the video, what happened inside that church. I want to back.
No, I mean Greenland. It's not Iceland. It's Greenland I'm talking about. It's literally Greenland. He wanted to buy Greenland.
Up to that Sunday morning, that intrusion into
Iceland. Yeah, he don't know the difference anyway.
City's church was sincerely shocking to many, many millions of Americans, myself included. You know, people, you know, saw that video. They saw Lemon's video, and they were uncomfortable by what happened inside that church. The idea that worship service was disrupted by protesters.
All right, hold on. Now let me just flip up because I could see there's somebody in the chat that let's see here. Who was it? Is it Kevin? Kevin, he's saying that it's not right for them to interrupt. Okay, well let's see. Let's see what these interruptions were like. You know, I'm not even sure what they were like, but let's see. Let's watch it and see what it looks like. Oh hell no. Sorry. Where's the audio at? Is this not coming out yet? Hold on 2 seconds, y'all. I got to do this another way. Hold on. Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Okay, let me go back now. Yeah, I have to do this another way. So I'm going to close this up. Y'all can see that, right? I'm going to bring this back over here and pull it up on this side. Yeah, I want to remind myself of what it looks like, you know, and let's see what it looks like for everybody. Here it is right here. So, boom, is it there? Oops, damn, what's going on? Here we go. Come on. So,
where we at?
So listen, they started outside. Can you all see this? You can see this. They started outside. Now, let's just get it straight. Did they have the right to be here? Does Don Lemon have the right to cover this demonstration? Yes or no? If he has the right to cover the demonstration, put a 1 in the chat. If he doesn't have the right as a journalist to cover the demonstration, put a 2 in the chat. Let me just see how people's minds are thinking, you know. Listen, there's no need to fantasize about any of this. You can see it for yourself. They're outside. And the question, Alex, you're answering the wrong question. Sorry. You got to be very, very specific and very clear so that we're not accused of being manipulators. Okay, Alex? So play along with this. They're outside demonstrating. Does he have the right to cover the protest outside? Put a 1 in the chat if he does. Put a 2 in the chat if he doesn't. We're only talking about what's going on right now. That's it. So stop trying to find another way to describe the events, Alex. That's it then. See, There you go. It works much easier when people listen and communicate, bro. Like, come on, man. You can't just talk, pretend like you ignoring people. That doesn't help nobody. That doesn't help one American, Alec. It don't help one American, no matter where you are from in the United States of America. Even if you talk like that, it doesn't help you. Okay? It doesn't help you if you want women to even not have abortions. It doesn't help you. Communication has to work, you know? Now let's watch.
Turns out, because we were like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? Saw the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up, and it's Takima Armstrong, and she.
It's clear he's not part of the demonstration. It's just clear. He's not part of the demonstration. You can see it. He's not part. He's not part. He's outside. He's outside. Let's see here.
Coming together, diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we were like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? Saw the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up.
All right, so hold on. Let me. As a matter of fact, let me go back 2 seconds. There have to be another one here. There have to be another one. Is it another one here? Let me say something right here. How about this? Yeah, because I just want to make sure people, you know, I don't want to see the edited version, too much of that. But it's clear that they started outside, right? But here we go. Let's do this one. I'm going to have this one ready. Sorry about that. I actually thought that was the original one at first. This is one that shows more. Stop right there. Stop. Right? Okay. So let me do this here. Let me just. All right, maybe not. Let's just watch. I'm sorry.
And it's Takima Armstrong, and she has been.
By the way, y'all, if you want to know whose channel this is called Biblical Response. Okay, so obviously he's going to give some, give some analysis, right? There we go.
Doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others.
This doesn't sound hostile. It doesn't sound hostile. What's going on in there? I don't hear it. I don't see it. I don't see
where they surprise people, catch.
Oh, okay. I see what it is. It's because maybe this is the dub he's doing, right? And I don't think that's the best way to view it. So let me just come back out of here. I'm sorry. Let me just make sure I find the original clip, yo. I don't know why it's bringing me this kind of clip. That's not the one that I want. Okay. So it says, okay, there's going to be some early commentary on this next one, but then it's going to actually show the whole video. So let me just pull that one up then. All right, now that I got the right one, let's see here. Sorry about that, folks. Thanks for your patience.
Right? Saw the American flag or whatever, but these are.
All right, now where's the new one at? Right here, right? Isn't that this? 1, 2, 3. All right, here it comes. Here we go. Now, this is reported by Sky News. So
this is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. A few weeks. Why? As a ceasefire is progressing. People of thousands. Tim Waltz, he's been such a break, and I met with lots of people.
Where the heck is it at? Come on now.
Earlier. But first, it has officially been 1 year of Donald Trump 2.0. 1 year ago, he was sworn in as the 47th president of.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is right here. It's coming out.
Take a look at some of the vision.
So you can see the protesters here have gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. In the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking.
So look, Don Lemon is not even near the protesters inside. He's not even near them. He's on the other side, you know, covering it. So I'm not really, you know, again, arresting Don Lemon like he is with the protesters, that's absurd. That is absurd. It just doesn't make sense, you know. He's obviously recording because nobody's even looking at him. Look, no, the attention is all across the room. It's in the other direction.
The protesters here have gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. In the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking, and Nekima stood up and said her piece, and then the protesters surrounded her. But this is a clandestine mission. I think they found out according to them, this is according to Operation Pull Up, that one of the pastors here is a member of ICE. And so here we go.
No, Don Lemon has not been asked. You haven't seen Don Lemon be asked to leave. You haven't seen that. Let me see here. Slim, let me ask you a question. What state do you come from and who's your healthcare provider? Slim says, I'll ask everybody that just to be able to qualify their statements. But Slim says Don Lemon and the protesters were asked to leave. But you don't see that on tape. Where did you see that? Where did that happen? Have you actually seen that? Because I don't see that right now happening. I see Don Lemon nowhere near the protesters reporting. No one has walked up to ask him to leave yet. So where do you get that information from, Slim? Slim, what state are you from and who's your healthcare provider? Just to qualify if you actually American or not, or a real person. Come on now. Yeah, it's not here. He's there. You haven't witnessed that here. He hasn't been asked so far. So.
Yeah.
I mean, storming a church during service. Hillary, can I get your reaction to this?
Well, Gabriella, lovely to be back with you again, although this is a ghastly topic because obviously we saw some parents escorting their little children out of the back there. This is a place that is very sacred. It is.
Okay, so I think what the backstory of this is that, let me see, I'm gonna go back to another one quick, but let me see. Was the priest or leader of the church a pro-ICE? Let's see here. Let's see what it says. I think that was the backstory. Something like that is that these are ICE people. Right. Okay. So let me see here. Right. One of the church's pastors actually worked for ICE, which is why the protesters accused the church of being pro-ICE. Okay. Again, this still got nothing to do with Don Lemon because as you hear him, he's trying to gather what's going on by asking. Okay. The protest targeted city churches, a city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota. One of the church pastors also served as a senior official in U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. That dual role is what sparked the protests. So the protesters came there because they found out that the pastor worked for ICE. Journalists noted that the protest was aimed at the church where an ICE official served as the pastor. Okay, that's reported by AP News in case people want to know. Let me see. Can I bring that up? Yeah, I can bring that up right here so you guys can see that. Yeah, that's reported by AP News. I don't know if you guys see that. Journalist right here, you see? Okay, journalists noted that the protest was aimed at. Okay, so are journalists allowed to be there? Are journalists allowed to report on this demonstration? Protesters organized, even demanded the pastor resign because of his ICE role. Important nuance. The pastor who was preaching that day was not the ICE official. The ICE-linked pastor reportedly wasn't even present during the service. Okay. The church itself didn't officially say it was pro-ICE, but pastors viewed it that way because the protesters viewed it that way because the pastor had a leadership role. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, let me see something. Did Don Lemon interview anyone from the church? That would be a good question to know, right? Did he interview anyone from the church? I'm just curious about that. And I want to know who else. Okay, so you could see here, right? You could see here. Now, it'd be one thing if he didn't interview anybody from the church, but then I would say, okay, well, that's strange, because he says that he's there to do reporting, to find out what's going on. So to find out what's going on, you would have to ask different sides, right? What is actually happening? So here it says Don Lemon did interview people from the church. Here's what reliable reporting shows. He interviewed church members and a pastor. Video footage shows Lemon spending about 45 minutes inside the church interviewing both parishioners and protesters. That's reported by the Washington Post. Right? That's owned by Jeff Bezos, one of Trump's buddies. Right? So he also spoke directly with a pastor about the disruption of the service. Okay? So he spoke with a pastor. Wow. The pastor in the church. Guess who reported that? Yahoo News. Okay. News outlets confirm he interviewed. So news outlets all confirm that Don Lemon interviewed members of the church and the pastor. News outlets confirmed he interviewed church members and organizers during the live stream. Example of what happened. Lemon asked the pastor what he thought about the protest. The pastor called the disruption shameful and asked Lemon to leave. Okay. So he did ask Lemon to leave. Okay. That's being reported. Lemon also talked with a parishioner who expressed support for immigration enforcement policies. Okay, that's reported. Okay, so yes, Don Lemon didn't just film protesters. He also questioned the church leaders. If you want, okay, so let me find out. Did he leave upon request? Let's find out. No, not immediately. Don Lemon was asked to leave the church, but he did not leave right away. What actually happened, based on reporting, church leaders and members asked him to leave the service. Lemon continued filming and interviewed people for a while instead of leaving immediately. Eventually, he left after police security became involved. Okay, news outlets described it like this. He stayed inside the church for roughly 45 minutes after the disruption began. He left only after the situation escalated and authorities intervened. Okay, why this matters legally. This is important. Churches are private property. Once someone is asked to leave and refuse, it can be considered trespassing, even if they are a journalist. That's one reason the incident became controversial. If you want, I can explain whether journalists. So, why aren't they charging him with trespassing? That's what I'm curious about. You know, I mean, I'm just curious about that. What is it about that? I mean, is that what they're charging him of? What are they charging Don Lemon of? Let's see. Are they charging Don Lemon of trespassing? No, he's not being charged with trespassing. He's actually facing, according to major news outlets, Don Lemon was arrested in connection with the Minnesota church protests. The charges are federal civil rights related crimes, not trespassing, including conspiracy to deprive people of civil rights, obstructing access to a place of worship under the FACE Act. Okay, these laws are about interfering with people's rights to worship, not just being private property. Okay. Why he wasn't charged with trespassing. Trespassing is usually state or local offenses. So the state is not actually charging him. The state where the protests were going on actively across the state. The state is not charging him of trespassing. Okay. Trespassing is usually a state offense, local offense, not a federal crime. And listen, y'all, I'm just telling you as it comes up. I'm telling you as it comes up, and I'm not being unfair to you. I'm reading exactly what it's saying here. So, I mean, either way, to me, so far, this doesn't sound so far out of what a journalist does. I don't know if you know that or not, right? Journalist's job is to actually record what police are doing too. Did you know that? the overall events, and he's in Minnesota. Minnesota's where the ICE agents are, right? This is all ICE related. This is why the protesters went there. I'm not saying that I'm not judging them yet. Hey, Taylor, but I'm just saying this is what it says. No matter if you like it or not, this is what it says here. Trespassing is usually a state or local offense, not a federal crime. Prosecutors instead are focused on whether the protests interfere with the religious worship. Okay, that's the feds who did that. Okay, judge initially rejected prosecutor's attempt to charge him due to insufficient evidence. Bottom line, no trespassing charge. He's facing much more serious federal allegations for related to civil rights. And this is the funny part about it. Trump doesn't even believe in civil rights law. Listen, this is the funny part about it. Look, hold on. Let me go back. What is he being charged with? Let's go back here. Look, conspiracy. Okay, let me see here. Okay, federal civil rights charges. Conspiracy to deprive. Let me just check these out. When were these charges created, and why were they created? What was the overall environment like? Okay, so let's see here. But again, this is Trump. This is Trump. This is what we got here. This is what we got to go on. So, people don't need to be embarrassed. Let's see here. Let's see what it says. Here's the big picture, y'all. History and environment behind those charges. I'll explain why they exist, when they were created, and what was happening in the U.S. at that time, because these laws didn't come out of nowhere. Ta-da! Conspiracy. Hold on. Let me take my camera off. Conspiracy to deprive people of civil rights. Origins. This comes from 18 U.S.C. 241, created in 1870 during the Reconstruction after the Civil War. Why it was created. After slavery ended, white supremacist groups, especially the Ku Klux Klan, were attacking black voters. I got to put my screen on while I say so y'all can see my face. Attacking black voters. Do you MAGA people agree? Should this law be stripped away? Should this law even exist? Was this an unfair law? Was this law totally out of pocket? Was this a fake Obama law? Was this a Kamala law? Why does it even exist? Not sure about that. That's very interesting. Let's read on. Why? Because people were attacking black voters? Threatening judges and witnesses, blocking people from voting, assembling or exercising rights, coordinating violence with local officials? Local officials? You mean the goddamn ICE back then was in on the scam? Is that what you mean? You mean ICE back then in the 1800s, after the Civil War, was in on the scam, harassing black voters? You mean what? I didn't know that. Damn, that's heavy shit right there, bro. Let me see here. Coordinating violence with local officials. Local officials. Doesn't the FBI even know where this law comes from? Okay, the federal government realized states were often unwilling, unable to protect civil rights. So Congress passed the Enforcement Acts to give the federal government power to intervene. Core idea of the law. This makes it a federal crime when two or more people conspire to interfere with someone's constitutional rights. Did Don Lemon conspire? Did he conspire? It says two or more people. Are journalists conspiring? Where is that his point of being there? Was his point to interrupt service, or was his point to witness what was going on and document it? Okay. Core idea of the law. This makes it a federal crime, blah, 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 to interfere with some of the blah, blah. Okay. The law has been used against KKK members, corrupt police officers, hate groups, violent mobs, officials abusing power. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I don't see this really going too far. Why did they just beg Minnesota to charge him with trespassing? I mean, come on. The man could at least be guilty. Come on now. That's a clear-cut case. Trespassing. Bow. 24 hours in the slammer. $10 fine. What the Instead, they like, nah, man, you know, this shit is like 1817 when the KKK, they came in here marching with crosses. They burnt crosses in front of our church service. How dare they? They was trying to stop us from voting, y'all. Yeah. The police conspired against us. Even the sheriff did it. In any case, this is some bullshit. I'm sorry. This is just some bullshit, man.
The department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. Again, this department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. Again, I'm directly quoting from Don Lemon's attorney here. The statement ends by saying, this unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. That's a statement from Don Lemon's attorney on his arrest last night. I mean, covering this here on CBS News as our reporters try to confirm information with their sources in LA, in Washington, and in other places. But it appears that this could be connected to Mr. Lemon's efforts as an independent journalist to cover anti-ICE demonstrations in Minnesota. We were just speaking with our Lilia Lucy.
It's not like everybody wasn't in Minnesota covering anti-ICE demonstrations. It's so all the reporters are there conspiring with the demonstrators. Is that what's going on here?
Luciano, who has been reporting extensively from the ground there in Minnesota, who made the point that after this incident, which you're seeing on your screen, there was an effort to bring charges against not just Don Lemon, but other protesters there. But a federal appellate court declined to file charges, and they also declined to order a lower court judge to sign arrest warrants for 5 people. That includes Lemon. One of the 3 judges said he felt there was probable cause to justify the arrests, but multiple people were charged in connection with that demonstration, and it was also linked to an ICE official who appears to be one of the pastors at that church. And there had been apparently an effort by the Trump administration to make some kinds of charges stick. Lilia, if you can still hear me, can you help us understand that legal effort post-demonstration that ultimately failed to make charges stick to Lemon? Because something has happened between that, obviously, and now.
Yeah. We are continuing to report on exactly how things got to that point of him being arrested involving the HSI and the FBI overnight in Los Angeles. But look, the officials that I have talked to here in Minnesota have been the state officials, extremely critical of the handling of not just the ICE operation, not just the killing of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, but the agents' participations or the agents' activities against people just trying to document what they're doing, and that includes journalists. We have seen agents who have, pushed journalists or forced them out of the scene, saying that they are impeding with law enforcement activity. There's a great deal of concern here in Minnesota, and of course across the country too, with those actions. So yesterday I sat with the prosecutor for the state of Minnesota who is overseeing the investigation into Alex Preddy's killing and Renee.
Well, there is this extra element. There's another underlying issue here. When when the Third Reich came into power, they used Christianity to murder people, just straight up, and imprison people, right, and torture people, mass groups of people. When a lot of what went on in the United States of America, slavery for centuries, depriving women of their right to own property, to vote, these kind of things. It was done. A lot of it was done under the guise of right-wing extreme Christian extremism. You see what I mean? So you can't, in this case, when you have a church aligning itself with right-wing extremists, you know, and using Christianity. It is dangerous. It sends a dangerous signal out to the public because the public is aware of this. You know, the public has experienced this in the United States of America. Americans are not going to just accept right-wing Christian extremism ruling the country. They're not going to do it because of the history, just like they're not going to do it in Germany because of the history of it, you know, unless you want to repeat the same mistakes, you know, unless you want to repeat the same mistakes. And I could tell you, I don't think anybody who's not a right-wing extremist Christian wants to repeat any mistakes. By the way, the United States doesn't have an official religion. You see what I'm saying? The founding fathers actually ruled against that. George Washington spoke against it, you know, for these kind of reasons, because even Christians were being so extreme in the beginning of the country that they were fucking killing each other, hanging each other, like straight up. Don't you know that? That's part of the history of the West. Even before they came to the U.S., they were burning people over religion in Europe, burning witches, burning people, executing people because of religion. So this is, to me, this is the underlying thing. So when I look at this law, it just seems like, come on, isn't this really just a stretch of reality? Are these people, you know, I mean, they were interrupted. Yeah, they were. Their service was interrupted. What else happened? Did they go to church next Sunday? Did they come to the church? Were they allowed to show up next week, or the day after, or were they blocked the day after too? Were they just blocked every day? No, these laws were made at a time where people were blocked every goddamn day from doing anything. You see what I mean? Voting, just persistent voting violations, persistent hangings, persistent lynchings, persistent burning crosses in front of families' yards, you know, like real terror in the United States. So for them to even invoke this is really just like, I'm sorry, but it's pathetic, especially since this administration doesn't even agree that racial injustice even happened in the country, that gender injustice even happened in the country. They don't even accept that it ever existed.
A Goods killing, and she was very strong with her words about how the federal government is acting. She says that her investigators, the state investigators, are being excluded from the evidence and the investigation, the federal investigation into those killings. She's very concerned, calls it all unprecedented, concerned with the way that that the government is kind of conflicting with the state. And this is all, I mean, right now, what we've been covering here, this is all happening as Tom Homan showed up yesterday in Minneapolis and basically changed the tone and said that there would be a scaling back of the amount of agents that are here on the ground if the state cooperates.
If the state gives up their voter registration information.
When you see such a high-profile journalist as Don Lemon, somebody who is an anchor for years at CNN, somebody whose face and name everybody, I mean, many people recognize in this country, being arrested while he was at a church interviewing the pastor that was being, targeted by the protesters, or, who the protesters showed up to protest. I think you have such a big story, you have such a big concern, such a strong message about the First Amendment. That is what we're hearing from Don Lemon's attorney. We don't know what the charges are. We don't know exactly what Don Lemon's activities were inside that church. But in terms of messaging, go ahead.
Just want to interrupt you momentarily because our Nicole Skanger has just shared with us the specific charges that Mr. Lemon now faces. So we want to share with our viewers what that is. His charges include conspiracy against rights, You're seeing that on your screen, and for violating the FACE Act. Let me just explain what these charges include. On the conspiracy against rights, this statute protects against conspiracies to interfere with rights such as voting, housing, or bodily integrity. For the second charge he faces, this is the FACE Act. That's the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances. This is a charge which forbids using force, threats, or physical obstruction to stop individuals from accessing reproductive health clinics or places of worship. That sounds key. It also prohibits damaging or destroying property at these locations. So, Lilia, now that we know two of the charges that Don Lemon faces, it does appear to be connected to that demonstration in a church.
So let me pause that here. You hear this part about connected to birthrights clinics. Let me hear this. Abortion clinics. Let me just hear that one more time.
To stop individuals from accessing reproductive health clinics or places of worship. That's
accessing reproductive health clinics. That's abortion clinics, right? Now, look, let's talk about the history of this abortion clinics in the United States of America, right? They face bomb threats. You know what I'm saying? They face shootings, killings, pipe bombs, shootings, all kinds of shit in the U.S. Women's rights. Like, seriously. I didn't see something like that. I didn't see anything like that at that church service. What I saw, myself, I wasn't there, obviously, right? And but what I saw on the video camera, right, was that demonstrators were there. They didn't harm anybody, but they didn't like the fact that they have their city being overrun by federal agents, disrupting their everyday life, snatching little kids from their parents, and they felt like, as a duty, Christians should be speaking up about snatching little kids away from their families, breaking the law, beating people, these kind of things. And so they kind of targeted that church, the protesters, and said, "Fuck this! Enough is enough." We don't need this in the United States. And whether you agree with it or not, I didn't see a pipe bomb blow up. I didn't see a protester go in and shoot up a bunch of people. You have people, right-wing extremists, people shooting up goddamn schools. Yeah. And they just and the Republicans are just sitting there trying to pretend like, oh, that's no problem. Oh, well, it's no problem. Nobody got shot here. Literally. So there seems to be a complete, utter double standard when it comes to expectations. In the United States, it seems like the right wing is always allowed to kick up the violence. And then when someone from the left says, stop, please doing that, they get arrested and then get told, hey, man, you're being violent. It's just too much, And now Don Lemon, they're trying to tell Don Lemon how to be a journalist, that no, you weren't reporting, Don. You were part of the demonstration.
Sounds key. It also prohibits damaging or destroying property at these locations. So, Lilia, now that we know two of the charges that Don Lemon faces, it does appear to be connected to that demonstration in a church from about 6 days ago, which a magistrate judge refused to bring charges at that time. And we know the administration has been pushing since then to appeal.
Oh, by the way, somebody said, I'm so glad you're up here on YouTube instead of protesting in the streets. Hey, my friend, in case you want to know, everybody, tomorrow, I'm glad you say that. Thanks for reminding me. Tomorrow, there's a demonstration across from the Copenhagen U.S. Embassy, right? The U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen, Denmark. Okay, arranged by myself and another American over here. And there's loads of people coming there. You're welcome to come. It's at 12 noon. Everybody, if you know anybody in the Scandinavian region, please invite them. It's at 12 noon. Right. It's not the only one, but it's not the first time we've organized demonstrations. So I know a little bit about First Amendment rights, and so do Danes. People in Denmark know about their First Amendment rights. I know all about it. Now, so, yeah, although I'm not, as an American citizen, I'm not living in the U.S. right now. I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C. My family on both sides goes back to the colonial period. But having said that, where I am, I'm actually protesting tomorrow. And these are some of the things we're going to be protesting against. How about that, y'all? Give myself a hand of applause. I mean, I don't often brag about stuff like that, but shit, I may as well pat myself on the back. I mean, I'm doing what I can do. Come on now. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a little something where we can. Let's not just talk about it. Let's be about it. How about that? And for you, Snipe, your ass is on YouTube. What the fuck are you doing? You know what I'm saying? What the hell? What the fuck you doing, Snipe? What the hell? You got some nerve questioning my ass. SN1, Pell, Lambda. What the hell is you got some nerve. You need to be sending my ass a Cash App right now. You got some goddamn nerve being in my chat talking shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, please, man, I don't play those games. I told you, man. People, I don't get it. I really don't fucking get it. I really don't fucking get it. With some people, listen, some folks really, really have a hard time learning, asking questions, not assuming. I didn't assume anything that I just went through. This whole litany of commentary, it's all about me researching and asking questions and trying to find out what went on. And then I got the nerve to have somebody try to tell me, it's good you up here on YouTube instead of being in the streets. No, jackass. I'm also in the streets too, you stupid fuck. God damn. Like, I mean, I'm sorry to talk that way, but yo, we don't deserve no mercy for these morons anymore. You know, enough is enough, you know? Let me see here. Jackass. Let me see. Let me just go over to here and y'all can see this, right? I'm glad you reminded me though. I appreciate it, but come on, man. You got to come better than that, man. Don't assume you know everybody. Why don't you start off by assuming you know little and ask? How about that? You know? Don't get ahead of yourself, you know? Don't get ahead of yourself, little man. All right? What the hell? This is some crazy shit, man. But this is what you got. This is what you got. At least he didn't throw around derogatory terms. Okay. So here's the demo. Everybody can see the demo, right? You see that? Right here. Oops. There it is. Here's the demo, y'all. This is tomorrow, 12 noon in front of the U.S. Embassy. Yeah. It's called Stand. You Stood With Us. We Stand With You. It's about Danish military standing with the U.S. about NATO. They stood with the U.S. when U.S. called in Article 5, right? And also many other things. But Danish veterans will be coming there to meet us there also. But this is in support of Greenland, in support of Denmark as American citizens, although it's going to be a lot of other people there. This is organized by American citizens tomorrow, 12 noon, across from the embassy. Spread the word. Everybody of a peaceful mind, of a democratic mindset, everybody that wants freedom for all people, right? Freedom for all is welcome to come. Everybody that wants freedom for all is welcome to come. People that want to restrict other people's freedoms, fuck you. You're not welcome. Okay? Stay away. You want to restrict other people's democratic rights? Excuse me, you want to restrict women's rights? In Denmark, if a woman wants to get an abortion, she goes and talks to her doctor about it, not to a motherfucking politician, okay? Not to some stranger. It's her own business, okay? If you want to have a... Yeah, in any case, on and on and on. Guess what else you got? Universal health care in Denmark. Guess what else you got? Your kids have the right to go to higher education, even if you're a deadbeat and don't have a job, their parents don't have a job or can't afford it. It has nothing to do with the kids reaching their highest expectation for themselves. They have that freedom here. So this is about freedoms, you see? So, yeah, in any case, I just wanted to say that. But let's go back over to... see more about what Legacy Media is saying here.
Heal and find a way to make something stick. I believe you covered this when it took place a week ago. Lilia, you've been covering so much, I'm not sure, but remind us why the FACE Act itself...
I wasn't here.
Okay, but remind us why the FACE Act would be key.
I wasn't here, but the source who gave me the tip this morning, how we learned for the first time that Don Lemon had been arrested, suggested, he didn't have the warrant, but suggested that it would be connected to the FACE Act, and this seems to be what the government was looking for. It's an interesting charge. Again, we need to, we don't have the evidence. We don't know exactly what happened, but Don Lemon...
Look, what are you talking about, Alex? Hold on, listen. What is this, man? Somebody in there talking about Jesus. You died for your one way, one truth. Life says you died for your sins, not your freedom. What are you talking about, man? Anyway, listen, you wouldn't have the right to say any of that, anything about Jesus, if if you didn't have the right in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, to worship however you want to worship. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Did you know that wasn't a right before? You see what I'm saying? It's not an inherent right. Okay, don't you understand that? I mean, and look, this. So how can you have how do you have a church full of Christians trying to get rid of the First Amendment? How do you have that? How do you have that? How do you have a church full of Christians trying to get rid of the Second, Third, or Fourth Amendment? What's up with that? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's just all around don't make sense. But you know.
And his attorney and his representatives have said he was there just interviewing the pastor, doing his job as a journalist. For all of us, it's very concerning.
I think, listen, one thing Jesus didn't do is cap for a corrupt ass state. Okay, we can be sure about that. Jesus wasn't capping for the fucking for Caesar. Okay, he wasn't out there on the street talking about, yay, Caesar, take our rights, take our rights. No, he wasn't. And he was a Jew, by the way. Okay, he wasn't a Christian. So, I mean, if we're going to really go there, let's think about this. Okay, Jews were minorities. Okay, that's the real reason why they were getting their ass beat up. Okay, god damn, don't you get it? Okay, so you have something in common with any person that's celebrating Jesus. Should know you have something in common with the people who are getting beat upside the head right now. You have something in common. You know, you shouldn't be proud of going after minorities. You see what I'm saying? Come on, man. You shouldn't be proud of that. You shouldn't be proud of a whole lot, to be honest with you. I mean, not like that. You should be happy you have a Bill of Rights.
To think about when we are there covering a protest, which we do constantly. We do.
Yeah, exactly. The historical Jesus. I mean, yeah, if we're going to talk, I mean, I hope you're talking about the historical Jesus, the one that actually people talk about in that book, because what other Jesus is there to be talked about? The imaginary one? I mean, I'm not claiming to be a worshiper myself, right? But I'm just saying, if we're going to get down to what's in the text in the time period that really existed, you can, that whatever's in that book have to coincide with facts that are corroborated. Okay, so at least the time period Jews were a minority. At least you know that. At least the king of Rome was against that. At least you know that. At least I mean, come on. They were out there trying to kill. They were out there trying to hang. All you got to do is study that period of time in history. Remove the Bible. Study the period of time in history so you can learn what was going on, was corroborated by several sources, and then introduce the Bible into it and see how it matches out, But I'm just saying,
all kinds of protests.
Jesus wasn't walking around America. That's for sure. He wasn't in America, no place.
The actions of the protesters and whatever charges are brought against the protesters, whether or not they're legal, justified, protected by the First Amendment, you don't have that expectation that you are going to be also arrested and charged for
this is the irony, right?
Being there. We have.
Let's check this out. Let me see. Does the same amendment that protects religious rights in the USA protect journalist rights? Let me just be clear about that. Because sometimes you need to remind yourself, and everybody needs a reminder, y'all. Don't take it personal. Me too. That's why I don't just, when I say things and when there's ever a possibility that I don't remember, or I think I don't remember accurately, I like to review it. And today you have the right to. So look, the same First Amendment protects both religious freedom and journalists. You see? So there's a hypocrisy. There's a hypocrisy in this. You got to understand that. So you have to ask, does Trump give a fuck about either? because Trump always seems to find a way to chip away at people's Bill of Rights. Don't you see this? Like, how are you chopping away at one without chopping away at the other? The same First Amendment protects both religious freedom and journalists, but in different ways with different limits. The First Amendment protects both religion and press. The First Amendment has multiple clauses. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Okay? Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. You see, it's written right there. This is it right here. You see? Press, religion. Okay? But you need to understand something. If you're a person that's worshiping, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. So you don't have inherent rights over journalists. You see what I'm saying? You don't have inherent rights over any freedom of speech, anybody's freedom of speech. You see what I mean? So when you're in church doing that, you're exercising your freedom, right? When a journalist is actually covering you, they're doing the same thing. You see? So it's kind of an oxymoron. And in a way, I'm pretty sure that they thought about this, because the Trump administration is definitely anti-First Amendment without any question whatsoever. It's definitely anti-Second Amendment without any question whatsoever. It's definitely anti-Fourth Amendment. It's basically anti-14th Amendment, Fifth Amendment. It's anti anything that protects any citizen's rights. So I don't see why anybody that loves Jesus or wants to practice Christianity in the United States of America would be okay with this, with Don Lemon being arrested. I mean, I think it's a bridge too far. To me, it seems like it.
Been tackled, tear gassed in this country and other countries. But when it comes to pressing charges, this is a very serious thing that the government is saying to all of us covering protests, to all of us engaging in journalism and bringing the audience what is happening from the ground, especially when it comes to somebody who is, not as well, he is working as an independent journalist, but somebody who people know as a journalist, who has such a name and a face and is so widely recognized. You really have to consider what is the message that the government is sending, even after multiple courts had refused to file those charges. It's very important for us to understand, and this is...
Yeah, multiple federal courts refused to file charges, and then they got some different charges to do. It's
something that we've seen the administration do when it comes to immigrants, too, that when one state is not friendly to the intention of the government, then they move immigrants to another state. So I'm very curious to know, this grand jury was called yesterday, what kind of evidence they saw. Look, we don't have the evidence. We don't have the facts. We don't know exactly what happened, whether he was obstructing, what he was doing there. But I think the intention, or I think we have to pay very close attention to why this much insistence in bringing charges against Don Lemon, and what is the intention, or what is the message that is sending to all of us who do this for a living, and to the public at large.
And Lilia, I'll just share with you that the consequences of these two charges on the conspiracy against rights, you could have fines and or up to 10 years in prison, and the freedom of access to clinic entrances, or the FACE Act, a violation of that is a misdemeanor on your first offense with up to 6 months in prison for nonviolent obstruction. Subsequent offenses, though, can be categorized as a felony with penalties increasing up to 18 months.
Okay, so I just want to look one more fact up. When was the last time anyone has been charged with these offenses Don Lemon is charged with? And give me the context. Let's see here. I mean, Trump did say he was issuing retribution. So, I mean, this sounds like it, Of course, it's culture war retribution. It's not healthcare retribution. It's not like, you know what? We have a fucked up healthcare system, so we're going to make sure all Americans have healthcare. No, it's not that kind of retribution. Not retribution for the people that want healthcare. It's a retribution for, I don't know, people that are into culture wars, I guess you could say. I mean, it's not even funny, but I mean, it's silly. It's funny in the silly sense, you know what I mean? But it's terrible in the effects it has on people. Here's what we do know about when someone was last charged under the same similar laws that Don Lemon is facing. Okay, conspiracy to deprive civil rights and obstruction under the FACE Act and the context around those cases. Before Lemon's arrest, there were very few and arguably no direct close precedent. I mean, what the fuck is going on here, yo? What's going on, y'all? Tell me. I mean, is it real? Is it real? Because this is what I'm reading. It says it right here. This is crazy. There is no precedent. So you tell me, how bizarre is this? How bizarre? How bizarre? Here's look. Oh, here's what we know about when someone else was last charged under the same or similar laws that Don Lemon is facing. Conspiracy to deprive civil rights and obstruction under the FACE Act and the context around these cases. Before Lemon's arrest, there were very few and arguably no direct close precedents. I mean, come on. Conspiracy to deprive civil rights, 18 U.S.C. 241. Historic and major uses of this law. Civil rights era prosecutions. The statute was used extensively in the 1960s to indict members of the white supremacist group for violent attacks and murder against civil rights workers. Okay. For example, the Mississippi burning case. Federal prosecutors charged a dozen men under the Associated Civil Rights Conspiracy statutes after 3 civil rights workers were killed in 1964. That didn't happen here. Church burning prosecutions in the 1990s. That didn't happen here. But in any case, in the 1995-96 case, defendants accused of plotting to burn African-American churches were federally charged under 18 U.S.C. 241 as part of hate crime investigations. 2 were sentenced to federal penitentiary. In 1995, after pleading guilty, 1 received 57 months. For burning a church, 57 months for plotting to burn a church. How many months you think Don Lemon's going to get? 100? I'm just saying, I'm just saying. More recent use. While 241 is still on the books and occasionally used, criminal prosecutions for conspiracy to deprive civil rights in purely protest context, nonviolent demonstrations are extremely rare. Legal experts quoted in reports on Lemon's arrest said they were unaware of any precedent for charging journalists or protesters under this statute in this kind of situation. So they're unaware. No one can cite a time where it's been used this way. The statute was written during Reconstruction, 1871, to combat KKK violence, which was very, very real in the United States of America. We're talking about not mental violence, not only mental violence, we're talking about actual real killings, okay? Abundant killings, many, and has been usually principally against serious civil rights abuses, physical violence, intimidation, burning property, or murder. Throughout the U.S., history cases from the 1960s and 1990s involved violent or dangerous acts far beyond peaceful protests. The freedom of access to clinic entrances. Clinic entrances? This ain't no clinic. This is a damn church. Okay? Typical prior use. I mean, again, think about the absurdity of this, how this sounds. Because it is based on precedent. So when you go to court and you win this case or you lose this case, it's going to be based on prior precedent, what has already been said. You see what I'm saying? Or that's going to have a big part in it. Otherwise, it will lose its value, the law in itself, if you abuse it. You see? So, typical prior use. Since its enactment in 1994, the FACE Act has almost exclusively been used to prosecute people in blocking access to abortion clinics. Okay? For example, anti-abortion activists who physically obstruct entrances or threaten patients or providers. There are civil suits and criminal cases involving abortion clinic blockades and aggressive protests resulting from this statute. Okay. Use, read, places of worship. As of 2025, the Department of Justice filed a civil lawsuit under the FACE Act for protesters alleging threatening, intimidating Jewish worshipers at a synagogue event, described as perhaps the first time the law was invoked explicitly for interference with the religious worship. Okay, so there's one case in 2025. That's it. There's one precedent, okay? For this one, he's got 2 charges. The other one is obviously there's no precedent. That's what they said. And this one has this. Criminal prosecutions under the FACE Act for disrupting religious worships have been extremely rare and non-existent. Legal experts noted unprecedented nature of applying this law in Lemon's case. Yeah, because, were they trying to hurt anyone? Is that what was the conspiracy to hurt, maim, kill, harm any of the folks? I mean, to me, it seems like there's almost very little there. You know what I'm saying? The FACE Act was passed amid intense national debate over, especially since Don Lemon stayed and interviewed these people on camera. I mean, that's going to be part of the case. The FACE Act was passed amid intense national debate over abortion access and related clinic blockades in early 1990s. It also covers places of worship, but almost enforcement has focused on reproductive health services sites, not churches and synagogue. Okay, what this means for Don Lemon's case. Lemon's charges are unusual, unprecedented in modern U.S. legal history. The conspiracy to deprive civil rights statute has been used historically. Okay, so we went through the gist of it. I mean, to me, yeah, it just sounds like it's a stretch. It sounds like it's a stretch. Trespassing, maybe. It sounds like it's a stretch. Now, let me just go over to Todd Blanche. I want to see what happened there. Let's see here. Okay, was that the beginning? Okay, I can see that wasn't the beginning. 2 seconds. Let me find the beginning. Todd Blanche. Is this it right here? Yeah, this is it right here. Okay, here we go. I want to see if he says anything about that, and then I'm out. I will catch y'all in the next day, tomorrow after this. Let me see. Click the like button if you don't mind. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my channel. I guess I don't know if the chat is open or what the deal is. It's probably closed. But I'm talking to the listeners too. Pick up your remote if you're listening from your TV. Click the like button if you don't mind. Subscribe if you don't mind. I appreciate it. A lot of people like to watch on the TV, but if you click like and if you subscribe, more people get the stream, through YouTube. That's how it works. So I appreciate everybody for coming out for this impromptu, and it was beneficial. It's good to go over some of the details. Me myself, I don't know all the details. Sometimes I find out something new, and I'm happy to do that. I'm always ready to learn something. You know what I'm saying? So again, that's part of the process. It's no point in being extremely angry about something you don't know a whole lot about. Right? And there's no need to be frustrated about shit that might not make sense if you view it in the right context. You know what I'm saying? But in any case, let's see what Todd Blanche has to say.
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Protest tomorrow in front of the U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen, 12 noon. So everybody come out if you're in the area.
President Trump signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act into law on November 19th, 2025, directing the Department of Justice to produce all documents, files, records, videos, and images related to the investigation.
And what did they do? They broke the law. I mean, even these people breaking the law, and they charging Don Lemon with all this shit, and these people are breaking the law?
And prosecutions of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm here today to talk about the department's compliance with its production obligations under the Act, Around, I think right now, and continuing throughout the day-to-day, as the indexing and uploading completes, we are producing responsive materials under the Act.
Let me help him out. They're producing record numbers of files like never done before. It's records that would make Biden look stupid. You know, records that have never existed, thousands of times more.
We are also releasing today a letter we are transmitting to Congress and various internal protocols associated with our review. I want to take a moment to thank the professionals at the Department of Justice who met twice daily, sometimes more, for the last 75 days to get to where we are today. The leadership teams from the Office of the Attorney General, from the Deputy Attorney General's office, the Associate Attorney General's office, the Criminal Division, the National Security Division, the FBI, the Southern District of Florida, the Southern District of New York, and the Northern District of New York all gave up many hours every single day.
Look, this is the administration that ran on release the files. They got in office, and for six something like that months, 7 months, they had no idea there were, according to them, millions of other files that they didn't even know existed. It took them that long, and they only found that out after being pressured for 6-7 months. Let me see something here. Let me see something. How long did it take the Justice Department to find the new batch of Epstein files? I just want to be accurate. You know, it's necessary, you know, if I don't remember, you know, to be accurate about this, so people really know what's going on here. New releases tied to the law. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah. Listen to this. Initial deadline was December 19th, 2025. The DOJ was supposed to release all the records by December 19th, 2025 under that law. On that day, a significant batch of files were released publicly. Okay. Discovery of more files, December 2025. This is a whole goddamn year. This is 11 months. 11 months went by and they were not even aware that there were other files after they told everyone all kinds of stuff about these files. This is crazy. This is crazy. It took 11 months.
Of their other, of course, full-time obligations to fulfill the President Trump's promise of transparency to the American people. I also want to thank the more than 500 lawyers and professionals across all those divisions that I just mentioned and others who worked long days, nights, weekends, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
Here we go.
Nights, weekends, and holidays to complete this.
Thanking all the workers again, you know, for all the great work they did, and you know, but yet they're really this is a lackluster performance, you know. But he's got to thank everybody for all the hard work.
Production. These highly trained reviewers spend their careers putting bad guys in jail and effectuating.
This is bullshit. I'm sorry. Come on.
180,000 images.
There we go.
Today we are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. In total, that means that the department produced approximately 3.5 million pages in compliance with the Act. Just a quick note about the videos and images. The 2,000 videos and 180,000 images are not all videos and images taken by Mr. Epstein or someone around him. They include large quantities of commercial pornography and images that were seized from Epstein's devices, but which he did not take or that someone around him did not take.
Why is he saying that? Why is he saying that? I'm a little suspicious of that. And the reason why I'm suspicious of that is because of the tapes that were released, the audio recordings of Sasha Riley, where Sasha Riley explicitly states that Epstein and people connected with Trump were making child pornography. Like, he explicitly states that. So I find it really weird. Like, the natural question to me is, how do they know Epstein or someone connected to Epstein didn't make this? How do they know that? I find that, and as a matter of fact, let me see something. I think I need to drop that in the chat so people know it. Sasha Riley, right? Sasha Riley audio, Substack. I think it's on Substack, right? People need to check it out. These were some interviews that were just released like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. These are fresh new videos. Okay. And I think people, let me see here. Is it this one? Laura Robinson. I think it's this one right here on Substack. Oh no, let me go back. But is it this one, YouTube? Let me see. It's on Substack, but maybe someone has produced them on YouTube now. Oh, here we go. They're on YouTube now, y'all. So listen, that's even better. So here, let me get everybody the link so you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. This young man, or this man, he's my age, by the way. Sasha is a vet. But this man right here, Sasha Riley, he has said that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, they molested him as a child. And in his account, they were making child pornography from him and other kids. And some of these kids were murdered. That's what his account is. So just so people are straight, so you know, Google this. I'm going to put this in the chat so you understand what I'm talking about. And then, you know, you will be able to understand how strange that statement from Todd Blanche sounds. It just sounds strange.
Some of the videos, though, and some of the images, and images taken. Just a quick note about the videos and images. The 2,000 videos and 180,000 images are not all videos and images taken by Mr. Epstein or someone around him. They include large quantities of commercial pornography and images that were seized from Epstein's devices, but which he did not take or that someone around him did not take.
Yeah, how did they ascertain that? How do they know that? I mean, I'm just curious. Like, to me, that sounds like a strange statement to make. Even if that's the case, it just sounds very strange to say that. You know, that's all I'm saying, you know?
Some of the videos, though, and some of the images do appear to be taken by Mr. Epstein.
You know, see, and then he uses the word appear. So, but how did they know the videos and the other things were not taken by Epstein? You know, he changes words here. You know, it's like when he's talking about those videos, he's acting like he knows with certainty that they're not made by Epstein. And then when he talks about the images, the other images, then they say some of them appear to have been. So they don't really know. They don't really know.
1,000 images are not all videos and images taken by Mr. Epstein or someone around him. They include large quantities of commercial pornography and images that were seized from Epstein's devices, but which he did not take or that someone around him did not take. Some of the videos, though, and some of the images do appear to be taken by Mr. Epstein or by others or around him. Now, I want to talk for a few minutes about the department's document identification and review protocols. It consisted of multiple layers of review and quality control designed to ensure compliance under the Act and protect victims. On top of the review protocols that the department had in place, the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York employed an additional review protocol to ensure compliance with a court order requiring United States Attorney Jay Clayton to certify that with respect to certain materials, a large quantity of the materials, a rigorous process was undertaken to protect victims against any clearly unwarranted invasion of their personal privacy. The department's collection effort.
You know, this is weird because so far I've only heard victims say they want it all out. Like, I don't understand this. Again, they keep emphasizing like, victims' rights. Yeah, I think that's okay, but it doesn't seem it's too many victims that don't want it out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
effort resulted in more than 6 million pages being identified as potentially responsive, including department and FBI emails, interview summaries, images, videos, and various other materials collected and generated during the various investigations and prosecutions that the Act covered. We erred on the side of over-collection of materials from various sources to best ensure maximum transparency and compliance, which necessarily means that the number of responsive pages is significantly smaller than the total number of pages initially collected. That's why I mentioned a moment ago we're releasing more than 3 million pages today and not the 6 million pages that we collected. I want to address what we didn't produce. The categories of documents withheld include those permitted under the Act to be withheld: files that contain personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files, and similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy.
Yeah, this is Maxwell. It's true what y'all saying in the chat. Maxwell said there's like 25 people or 50. How many people did she say settled cases outside of criminal process, civil cases? They settled them. How many people was it? But now they have 25 new co-conspirators, and I don't think he's going to say much about them.
Depiction of CSAM or child pornography was obviously excluded. Anything that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. And finally, anything that depicts or contain images of death, physical abuse, or injury, also not produced. Although the Act allows for withholding for items necessary to keep secret in the interest of national security or foreign policy, no files are being withheld or redacted on that basis. Further, as we previously stated in our December 19th letter of last year, the department withheld or redacted files covered by various privileges, as we always do, including deliberative process privilege, work product privilege, and attorney-client privilege. As you all know, under the Act, the department must subsequently submit to the House and Senate committees on the judiciary a report listing all categories of records released and withheld, a summary of redactions made, including the legal basis for such redactions, and a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in the Act. We will do so in due course as required under the Act. I want to talk for just a moment about the redactions that will be obvious to anyone who reviews the materials that we just produced today. In addition to the documentary redactions, which includes personal identifying information, victim information, and other privileges, there is extensive redactions to images and videos. To protect victims, we redacted every woman depicted in any image or video, with the exception of Ms. Maxwell. We did not redact images of any men, unless it was impossible to redact the woman without also redacting the man. To this end, though, and to ensure transparency, if any member of Congress wishes to review any portions of the responsive production in any unredacted form, they're welcome to make arrangements with the department to do so, and we're happy to do that. I want to talk for a minute about something that is important. Every single day of the year, the Department of Justice investigates and prosecutes those who abuse and traffic young women and children. Just last year, the FBI located over 2,700 victims of child exploitation. The Department of Justice found and terminated 3.8 million dark web pedophile accounts. In August, we charged 11 defendants for extensive sex trafficking in Los Angeles of illegal immigrants.
It doesn't sound like he covered anything about Ghislaine Maxwell's comments, right? Did I miss something? Like, how far is he in this video? I guess they're going to ask him some questions. So I'll let it play.
Underage women. Last month, we charged 5 men who were engaged in a sadistic sextortion network of deranged young men abusing women. Over the past several months, last summer and into the fall, we executed Operation Restore Justice, rescuing 205 child victims and arresting 293 offenders. I point this out because I take umbrage at the suggestion, which is totally false, that the Attorney General or this
is weird. You see this? This is weird. Yo, sorry, man. Todd, you fucked up, man. Todd messed this whole thing up. They bullshitted. They sent Ghislaine Maxwell to a soft, cushy cell. They interviewed her. He came out of that interview with nothing. There are no other people co-conspirators. It's lies. Stop it. That is a left-wing Obama-Kamala hoax. That's literally what they said. And now he has to explain why that wasn't true. And he's going to blame us. He's going to gaslight us and shit about it.
This department,
I mean, listen, anybody could have done a better job at investigating than this guy.
Does not take child exploitation or sex trafficking seriously, or that we somehow do not want to protect victims.
Not when they got a lot of money. When the perpetrators have a lot of money, you ain't doing shit about them.
We do. There are some select members of Congress and some in the public eye, including those most critical of our efforts at full transparency under the Act, who remain silent as to all the work that we have done and continue to do every day in this space.
Have they interviewed Sasha Riley?
While quickly pointing a finger at the Attorney General or this department because we were careful in our review of millions of pages of documents over the past 2 months. The Attorney General, the Director of the FBI, and our partners throughout this administration work hard every single day to protect the most vulnerable among us. With the production of this magnitude, mistakes are inevitable. We, of course, want to immediately correct any redaction errors that our team may have made, and so the department has established an email inbox for victims to reach us directly to correct redactions and any concerns when appropriate. That's been in existence since December, and we've been doing that since then. Finally, a very small portion of the documents collected pursuant to the Act include materials that a law firm produced to the SDNY in 2019 pursuant to a grand jury subpoena. This was during the criminal investigation of Ms. Maxwell. We determined it would be prudent to seek an order from the court in the Southern District of New York seeking production of these materials subject to the protective order in that civil lawsuit. To that end, the department has filed that motion with the appropriate judge in the SDNY, and if that motion is granted, we'll release those materials with appropriate redactions immediately. Today's release marks the end of a very comprehensive document identification and review process to ensure transparency to the American people and compliance with the Act.
I mean, this is crazy because no one believes the guy, you know? Nobody believes him at all. This is a serious moment in history where you have a DOJ representative, number 2 or 1, that FBI head, DOJ, that no one believes anything that they say whatsoever about anything. Like,
the department has engaged in an unprecedented and extensive effort to do so. After submitting the final report to Congress as required under the Act and publishing the written justifications for redactions in the Federal Register, the department's obligations under the Act will be completed. I'm happy to take any questions anybody has about that.
Todd, I'd like to ask you about this, and then I have a Minnesota question for you. On the Epstein release today, it was recently made public that Ghislaine Maxwell claims more than 24 men signed secret agreements with the federal government not to be prosecuted. What is your reaction to that, and what does that mean for her case?
I read an article that
all right, let me I got to cue the lie up real quick. Let's slow this down because it's about to get slippery in here. All righty, let's hear now.
I wasn't aware that it was actual men that she's claiming. I thought it was accomplices, which I'm not sure if
How is he changing her words? She said co-conspirators, and he's like, I'm not sure. What the fuck is going on here?
If that's a
It was recently made public that Ghislaine Maxwell claims more than 24 men signed secret agreements with the federal government not to be prosecuted. What is your reaction to that, and what does that mean for her case?
You can't be prosecuted for anything if you didn't commit a crime in the first place.
I read an article that described, I wasn't aware that it was actual men that she's claiming. I thought it was accomplices, which I'm not sure if that's a reference to some of the financial institutions or other individuals that
25.
So yes, I don't have a reaction to her filing. I can tell you that
You don't have a reaction to her filing. Okay, let me just play this and I'm going to find her filing.
we reviewed, as I just described, every single piece of paper that we have associated with these investigations, Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell. And to the extent that such arrangements exist, I'm not aware of them.
On to Minnesota, if I may ask you real quick, that's in the topic, in the headlines right now. There's new video of a man believed to be Alex Preddy.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop there real quick. Okay, so let me see here. None of the four named co-conspirators. This is co-conspirators. Her filing asserts that none of the four named co-conspirators or 25 men with secret settlements were indicted. Listen, what is this guy doing? What's he talking to? Total adds up to 29. Okay. Whoa. Let me see this habeas corpus petition. Let me see this. Find me the petition. I want to find the petition. Let's just get the exact information here. Okay, so let me open the PDF. Let me see. I can open it up here, I guess. Okay, here is the petition. Let me see. Can I make the text larger? All right. I can make the text larger, but you all may not be able to see all of it. So let me see here. If I make it smaller, right. Can you all see that now? Right. Okay. So I will just read from here. I think I got my glasses on, so I should be able to see it. This is the petition. Now, let me just skip right past all this shit and go right down to. Okay. First of all, habeas corpus. Yeah. So this is it. Okay. Let's see here. Overview. The petition conviction must be vacated because Let me see here. Hold on. I got to make this larger. I'm sorry, y'all, because I got to be able to read this. Factual background. Okay. Following the verdict, Juror 50 publicly disclosed having been a victim of sexual abuse, a fact he denied, right? The post-trial hearing, 50. Okay, well, no, let me go on. Okay, let me ask one thing here. Let me just ask one thing over here. Let me just get the exact I think it says page 28. Is that what it said? Oh, no. It didn't say that. Okay, let me see here. It says, okay, where she discusses the claim about 4 co-conspirators and 25 men allegedly involved in secret settlements. Okay. So excerpt is from document 821-6. Okay. There were 4 employees. Okay. This is the exact language. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put this petition here. I'm going to put that in the chat also. So wait a second. Is it right here? It's right here. Ghislaine Maxwell. Let me see. Save link, copy link address. I'm going to put that in the chat for people in case you all want to know it and see it for yourselves, right? Can y'all see that? Let me know if it works. If I click this, okay, it works for mine. So it's opening up. So hopefully it should work for yours too. And if not, I will put it at the description of this. As a matter of fact, let me put it in the description now. Oh, you know what I can do? Forget that. Forget that. I know what I can do here. 2 seconds. And then I'm going to read what it says here, the exact language. Bob, is that here? Bob, here we go. All right. Actually, what I can do. Where's the chat at? Here we go. Y'all still there? Okay, here. I'm going to put this courthouse, blah, blah, blah. Replace pin message. So look, it's in the pin messages now, so you should be able to click on the court document. All right, so now let me go back. Now it says, if I read this, it says, boom. Here it is. There were 4. This is a quote. These are quotes now. Okay. Matter of fact, let me just open this one up. Oh, it doesn't say. Okay. Well, here's a quote. Quote. There were 4 employee co-conspirators that were not indicted but named in a NA Exhibit 81. The new evidence reveals that there were 25 men with which the plaintiff lawyers reached secret settlements that could equally be considered as co-conspirators. None of these men have been prosecuted, and none has been revealed to the petitioner. She would have called them as witnesses had she known. Okay. Now it says the excerpt is from document 821-6, the court filing, which is part of Maxwell's motion. And while the published PDF doesn't show the full page numbers on the screen, this passage is early in the filed exhibits. The top of that exhibit starts at the equivalent of page 1 exhibit. Okay. So let me go here. Page 1 exhibit. Oh, right. Newly available evidence. Damn, there's a lot in this petition, actually. False testimony presented. So page 1. So this is page 1. Okay. Let me see. Under federal petition, prisoners may move the sentencing court to vacate, set aside, or correct sentence was imposed in violation of the Constitution, of the laws of the United States, if the court lacking jurisdiction or if the right. So this is part of her habeas corpus. Okay. Because the petitioner proceeds pro, her submission must be liberally construed and held to less stringent standards. Okay. The motion timely under. So is this it? Page 0.1. Factual background. You know what? I can actually search this document. So let me just go to find this, the words that they use, the exact words here. Let me see here. They use a quote. Okay, here. Let me just put this in here. Copy. Then I should be able to pull it up here, right? There it is. That's funny. Why does it say it's not there? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Now, so it should be on this page. So that's page 46. Right. There it is. So let me just pull this back up. It's page 44, y'all. Actually, I don't know how many people can see that, but it's actually page 46, but it corresponds into Google Read as page 44. So that would be here on this page. Okay, the plaintiff's lawyer representing the complaint had approached the SDNY 2016 in an effort to promote and instigate criminal prosecution. The SDFL was not happy with the MPA, and the plaintiff lawyers wanted to assist CVRA case for financial motives. U.S. Burroughs, establishes that the first one had proved similarly situated individuals were not prosecuted. Alema 341 F3D at 173. There were 4. Here it is, y'all. All right, so now I'm going to make this smaller so y'all can actually see it. I think you should be able to see it now. If I go like this, boom, boom, boom. All right. Here it is. It's so damn small. I think you all can see it now. Right? It says there were 4 employees, co-conspirators that were, so let me read it from the top. The plaintiff's lawyers representing the complaints had approached the SDNY in 2016 in an effort to promote and instigate criminal prosecution because the SDFL, right, was not happy with the MPA, and the plaintiff's lawyers wanted to assist the CVRA case for financial motives. U.S. versus Barrios, Barrios 501 F2D 1207 1211 2D Circuit 1974 establishes that first one has to prove the similarly situated individuals were not prosecuted. So first they got to prove that. Alema 341 F3D at 173, there were 4 employees, co-conspirators that were not indicted but named in MPA Exhibit 81 and referenced in the indictment of Jeffrey Epstein, 19 CRIM 490. Okay? The petitioner was not. New evidence was revealed. New evidence reveals that there were 25 men with which the plaintiff lawyers reached secret settlements that could equally be considered as co-conspirators. Now this is her filing. Listen, yo. This is Ghislaine Maxwell's own filings. She's the one saying this. She's saying this. So let's go back. It's her own words. How could he not read this? This is bullshit.
Who's spitting, who's kicking out a taillight of a law enforcement vehicle. Does that...
And so the department has established an email inbox for victims to reach us directly to correct redactions and any concerns when appropriate. That's been in existence since December, and we've been doing that since then. It's collected by in 2019 Ms. Court, or appropriate judge, and at the end of a very comprehensive narrative. And I think happy to
ask you
what he has about that.
Todd, I'd like to ask you about this, and then I have a Minnesota question for you. On the Epstein release today, it was recently made public that Ghislaine Maxwell claims more than 24 men signed secret agreements with the federal government not to be prosecuted. What is your reaction to that, and what does that mean for her case?
I read an article that described, I wasn't aware that it was actual men that she's claiming. I thought it was accomplices, which I'm not sure if that's a reference to some of the...
Why do you have to sign secret deals if they're not people? If what's going on is innocent or has no consequence. That doesn't make any damn sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Financial institutions or other individuals that.
25.
So yes, I don't have a reaction to her filing. I can tell you that we reviewed.
They don't have a reaction to her filing.
As I just described, every single piece of paper that we have associated with these investigations, Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell, and to the extent that such arrangements exist, I'm not aware of them.
On to Minnesota.
He's not aware of them. That's what he said. He's not aware of them. Something's weird about that, because obviously her petition would fail if something like that couldn't be found out to be true, right? I mean, yeah, that sounds really, really weird.
So if I may ask you real quick, that's in the topic in the headlines right now. There's new video of a man believed to be Alex Preddy, who's spitting, who's kicking out a taillight of a law enforcement vehicle. Does that change the perception of a potential DOJ investigation? Is there going to be a civil rights investigation into his death? Where does that land now that video's out? Then I have a quick follow-up on that.
All right, so I'm going to get back to this. Yeah, that sounds really, really I mean, listen, when you compile, look, how many people can be lying? How many folks can actually just be lying about this shit? I mean, that's what gets me, that he's not even concerned about it. And it seems almost like, it seems almost like nobody else's words matter, right? I mean, listen.
You know, the more light that is shed on there, I don't think that I'm incurring more risk, except for some maybe lunatic that wants to be a soldier for Donald Trump, because they are a little crazy. They're a little brainwashed. But I don't mind whatever would bring a little bit more light to this, particularly this stuff. If we can get some of this stuff verified, you know, and I know that me speaking up is one thing, but then the verification process, you know, is important too. And I have read about software where, you know, I would think that he would probably remember something like that, just the unusualness of it. Civilian authorities, but they don't have any jurisdiction to go further than to just those three, and that's why that
discreetly all sorts of nonsense. So seems like
and that's what he did. He shuttled the people, but I can remember him not wanting to cross the bridge over to running drugs.
Yeah,
you know, because
extremely brave. You behave extremely strong.
Physical pain, and then it's all. It's why I have not shut up about just how absolutely abhorrent he is as a human being. Breathe, just thrown blows over it. But there was a heated argument and everything going on for an extended period of time, and then I can remember.
Listen to this. Watch this.
I had assaulted Trump.
He assaulted Trump. This is what he's alleging that happened to him as a child with Trump.
Out because he wasn't that much. He's only like 7 or 8 years older than me. So at the time frame that I'm at 12, he is right around just graduating high school, maybe first year.
So he's talking about another congressional member what's his name, Jim something?
Of college, right? So him being so much younger stood out. And then I remembered his jawline. He has a very pronounced jawline. I remembered his voice, and his mannerisms haven't changed throughout his life either. So when I really started, as soon as Trump went down that escalator and said he was running for president, I got involved in politics. You know, I started watching it. I started watching who supported him and everything like that. And I remembered Jim Jordan just from watching him on the floor of Congress, you know, speaking to the different people that, you know, go up there and testify. So, and that's him, you know. I just remembered him. So
Yeah.
I know that's not a lot, but you give me a polygraph, I'm going to take it, because I'm 100% sure that it was him.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy Biggs, I remember, because on the way to this, they took me to a house. This wasn't at a party. This was later, after I had assaulted Trump, and it was kind of a punishment type of thing, where he was going to get to assault me and I guess not pay my parents, and he got to do whatever he wanted. And I can remember telling me I wasn't allowed to fight back or they'd kill me, and, you know, all of this. But they must have said his name 50 times in the car. So Biggs I kept hearing Biggs, Andy Biggs, and I thought, I'm going to remember this name. And after he assaulted me, I don't even remember the assault necessarily, but I remember being in the car afterwards and being like really nauseous, sick to my stomach. I was seeing spots, and I mean, the guy beat me until I had broken ribs and was convulsing, turning blue and stuff like that. And the only part of that assault that I can remember is laying on the floor of the room trying to breathe, and I could hear Andy and my dad screaming back and forth at each other, and I can remember
And let me ask you a question. Do you think it's more helpful for you to talk about what you remember first, when you were first trafficked, the circumstances, individuals involved, or do you want to talk about some of the incidents that we spoke about a bit by email already? What do you think is most helpful for you?
Fill in whatever gaps in that I can. I have spoken to you about most of what I remember clearly, but I can give you some of the details with those three, and that's why I am willing to talk about them. You know, there's no. I remember more things, but I can't give you much in the way of detail for anybody other than those three. I can remember Jim Jordan. I went to a party. This was at a farm.
So he said Jim Jordan sexually assaulted him. He says Andy Biggs sexually assaulted him and physically, you know, not just sexual assault, but physical abuse too, beatings, all of this stuff, right? And Donald Trump also assaulted him on 4 different occasions, and that the last time he was so, you know, he had it out for Trump. He was so scared of Trump that and also hurt by Trump emotionally, that Trump apparently wanted him to he's alleging that Trump is into male sex, obviously, right? Boy man sex, and that he was instructed to stick something up Trump's rear end, and that because he knew that was his opportunity to hurt Trump, he actually stuck a stick up his ass, excuse my language, and kicked it, like just kicked it up there, and that he left Trump on the floor screaming, convulsing, and that people ran in the room. And this is why they were saying he beat Trump up, and they stopped. That was the last time. Now, he also describes making movies. They had him, Trump. He says Trump was the ringleader, not Epstein. He said Epstein worked for Trump and some other billionaires at that time. And he said that they had him making sexual videos, minors with girls. And one time they came in and shot the girl in the middle of the incident, shot her in the head, something like that. And that was a snuff video. It was all on videotape. That's what he is alleging. So I just want to let people know that this is going on. He's aware of these allegations when he's out here talking. Like, he's aware of it. You know, this is the seriousness of it. He is totally aware that these tapes came out just weeks ago. Let me see something here. And he's also aware of what Ghislaine Maxwell said. So let me see something. How many weeks ago did the Sasha Riley audio tapes appear public? I just want to make sure I got this right. Listen, this is January. This is 2 weeks ago, January 14th, 15th. This is when these tapes were released. So these tapes are brand new. These tapes are brand new. So when you hear this guy talking, he's aware of all of this. He's aware of all of these allegations. They also say he also puts Clarence Thomas at these parties. Now, it's important to remember, you see all this Mar-a-Lago parties going on and parties. And if you listen to some of the victims, they always tell you it's parties going on. There's adults there, many adults. There's, many people, and you don't know. Well, he describes the parties, how the parties were orchestrated. And he's not the only one that talks about parties. But just think about these Mar-a-Lago parties that Trump is having, and look at what's there. Look at how it's going down. I mean, it almost sounds like it's right out in the open, except they're private parties. And, but he says that Clarence Thomas is a person that frequented these parties, and he suspects that Clarence Thomas also sexually assaulted him. He doesn't remember, but he remembers Clarence Thomas was frequently at these parties where these kind of things were happening, that only the no crowd. So not just in the early part, not just in the middle of party, but in the end part where wild shit is going on too, where everyone that stays is into wild stuff. He's saying that he remembers Clarence Thomas being there, so.
Where does that land now that video's out? Then I have a quick follow-up on that.
I don't think a single video should change any.
Sorry for flip-flopping like this, but I just wanted to give some context to Blanche here. Now he's going to go into talking about another video that came out with Pretty, right? Alex Pretty. I'm going to pull that up too before I'm out of here. Let's see.
A man believed to be Alex.
Such arrangements exist. I'm not aware of them.
On to Minnesota, if I may ask you real quick. That's in the topic, in the headlines right now. There's new video of a man believed to be Alex Pretty, who's spitting, who's kicking out a taillight of a law enforcement vehicle. Does that change the perception of a potential DOJ investigation? Is there going to be a civil rights investigation into his death? Where does that land now that video's out? Then I have a quick follow-up on that.
I don't think a single video should change any perception the Department of Justice may or may not have about that tragic occurrence last Saturday. We've said repeatedly over the past week that, of course, this is something that we're investigating, and we are. That's what we would always do in circumstances like this. And so there's an investigation that's ongoing, which I'm not going to talk about. But just look, the problem is an initial reaction to a particular video, one or another. You're talking about one that happened apparently some days ahead of last Saturday. It's an investigation. So an investigation necessarily means just that. It means talking to witnesses. It means looking at documentary evidence, sending subpoenas if you have to. And the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division has the best experts in the world at this. They've been doing it for decades. And so I expect that investigation will proceed with those parameters in mind.
Are you looking at a nexus of left-wing groups?
I mean, it doesn't justify the day that he got killed. Whatever this is, it just doesn't make any sense because, you can't execute someone for something they did days in advance. You know what I mean? So I don't even understand it, but I guess they want to make him out to be a domestic terrorist, which is what they called him, but it seems like more reaching.
This DOJ said that that's something that you guys were concerned about. Are you following money? Are you looking at a potential that all of this may be related somewhere?
I mean, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Attorney General. You said in your remarks that you've withheld some documents because of ongoing investigations. I've done this long enough to know you can't comment on ongoing investigations, but can you say a little bit more? Because as you know, the department has...
Somebody said, G Slim said, where were the allegations when Trump ran for office? You know what? There's a whole lot of video here. You should listen to it. I haven't even listened to all of it. I would encourage everybody to listen to it. It's right up there in the right up there pinned in the. I would encourage anybody that has any questions to listen to the videotapes. Do not try to prove how they're not real. Do not try to prove how he's lying without listening to them. Listen to them in their entirety and then ask some great questions about it, right? But to me, I think you might be missing something. If you listen to any of the witnesses, I mean, let me ask you something, G Slim. How much do you get paid a month? Like, are you rich? Are you can you afford lawyers? What is your economic bracket? Are you a millionaire? You make $100,000 a year? Less or more? 200,000? So, to me, it just sounds like in the context of dealing with these victims, one thing that they have all said is that the victims were told, especially a lot of these girls, you heard them all corroborate this, that about Epstein. They were told by Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein that we own the police. They were told that about the Florida police. We own the police. We own the DA, we own the FBI. They were telling them things like this to make them scared of saying anything to anybody. And I believe in these tapes, he's talking about the fear that they instilled in them also, and why there was fear. Why? Because they witnessed people be murdered, my friend, G Slim. So again, you might want to not discount listening to the videos, to the tapes, the audio tapes, because a lot of those questions you might have might actually be in the audio tapes. You see what I mean? So I would encourage anyone to listen to the audio tapes first, ask questions later, because a lot of doubts that you might have in your questioning could be answered in just listening to it. You gave Trump a chance. You gave Trump a lot of chances. You don't want to give anybody else a chance? All right.
Been criticized for not bringing charges against more people. Are there still open investigations related to Jeffrey Epstein?
So what I was laying out in my comments is the statutory, what the statute talks about what we can withhold and the reasons we can withhold it. I wasn't pointing to any particular, I wasn't trying to be coy or otherwise suggest there's some investigation. As you all know, Jay Clayton in New York is in charge of any potential investigations. And
I mean, they threatened to they threatened, number one, they threatened to kill these people. I don't know if you know that. They threatened to kill the victims. But they also threatened to, release videotapes of them, all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? So you just got to listen to the victims. I think a lot of people don't listen to the victims, and I think that's really where the confusion is.
And I'm not going to comment beyond that on that.
You were referring to Clayton.
Excuse me?
You were referring to Clayton's investigation.
I wasn't.
Yeah, well, you're questioning the timing. I understand that. And what I'm saying to you is that it might be perfectly logical that if you listen to the tapes, you might not even ask that question. That question, the answer might really be in those tapes. I mean, I'm pretty sure the why you're asking for is already covered in that audio. You see what I mean? So listen to the audio, because let's just put it like this. If this was one of your family members, would you want people to listen? Would you want people to care? Or would you want people to just be like, why is she saying that now?
I wasn't referring to anything. I was just saying that Congress, in their wisdom, allowed us to withhold documents if there were ongoing criminal investigations. That's one of the 4 reasons. I wanted to make clear with respect to any national security information that we were not withholding. There's not some tranche of super secret documents about Jeffrey Epstein that we're withholding. We're actually not withholding anything based upon NDI.
Deputy Attorney General Branch, thank you for your time. 2 questions for you. Number 1, pushing politics aside and everyone else aside, some of the victims of Epstein have expressed frustration with the entire process. I want to give you the opportunity to speak directly to them.
Well, I don't know what you're speaking to. I mean, if there's frustration with, quote, the entire process, same here. I mean, you have a situation where for many, many years. Nobody even breathed a word about Jeffrey Epstein. And then all of a sudden, it was all anybody would talk about going into the last spring and summer, culminating in the passage of the Transparency Act. And President Trump has said for years what I think everybody will find to be exactly.
Listen, when did Trump, let's listen to this. This is some bullshit. This is some bullshit. Did Trump recognize any of the Epstein victims in his first administration? I mean, let's see if Trump, if any victims came up. All right. So let's see here. Trump knew Epstein socially in 1980 and the 1990s, hosting him at Mar-a-Lago and attended social events. Several Epstein victims later testified in civil and criminal cases that they were recruited or abused during the 1990s and early 2000s. Trump's first administration, 2017-2021. During Trump's presidency, no White House records, press releases, or public statements indicated that he personally recognized, met, or acknowledged Epstein victims. Victim advocacy during this time was largely handled by lawyers, prosecutors, and NGOs, not through the White House. Exceptions and tangential contacts. Indirectly, some victims or their lawyers lobbied federal prosecutors of the Department of Justice under Trump's administration, but there's no record that Trump personally engaged with them. Melania Trump and White House staff. No public record shows staff acknowledging victims on Trump's behalf. Listen, they were all around these victims. They were at all the events, these things, not all, but a lot of events where these things were going down. Trump didn't say a peep about it. Were there victims? Did people say Trump was around? Yes. You know how we know that? I mean, I don't really understand what's going on here because there's a lot of weird, strange stuff that seems to happen. But listen, Katie Johnson. When did Katie Johnson release those tapes? Let me see. When did Katie Johnson speak about Trump and Epstein? I mean, what year did she say this? This is crazy. I mean, so Trump's first office was 2016. Look, 2016 legal filings and planned public statements. A woman using the name Katie Johnson. This is when Trump first came into office when he was running. Woman by the name of Katie Johnson and later Jane Doe filed lawsuits in 2016 accusing Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein of sexual assaulting her when she was a minor. The first lawsuit was filed in 2016. Look, this other guy, he didn't even start thinking. He got reminded when Trump ran for president himself. That's when he said he started taking note, Before that, he didn't really take note of it. It was kind of, I guess people try to push the shit out of their life. You know what I mean? Since they were under death threats. I mean, that's what Katie Johnson says. But here, look.
There were some words I didn't even understand. Something about the shape of his force. It was another massage, and it was basically like it wasn't sex. I was so young, and I was also a virgin, so I don't know. It seemed like he wasn't really into having girls that were liked by the other guys. He kind of, the whole glove. He kind of liked things to be his first. He seemed to take a liking to me because I was I was so young. So I told him that I wasn't interested in that, but he said that I would do. And as far as Donald Trump, he knew that I was 13, and I believe that Tiffany told him he seemed to take a liking to me because I was I was so young, and I was also a virgin. So I don't know. It seemed like he wasn't really into.
Look, so this is in 2016. She goes on to say that she says it in a deposition. Everybody knows about this. Trump knew about it. The Department of Justice knew about it under Trump. I mean, Did Trump do anything about this when these accusations came out? What did Trump say about Katie Johnson's accusations? Let's see here. What did Trump say about Katie Johnson? Let's listen. Let's find out. I mean, because I don't remember offhand all of this shit. This is a lot of shit to keep track of, right? What did Trump say? Trump denied the allegations made by Katie Johnson and other women. She said Trump and Epstein did her in, right? Okay. He referred to her and similar accusers as fake news. This is back in 2016. He called it fake news. Okay. Yeah. And politically motivated claims. He says it's politically motivated. Now he doesn't. Now he says it's fake news one day, but then he goes back to say that no, it's real. He can't figure out which one it is. This is what Trump said. I don't know this woman. These are politically motivated accusations to hurt my campaign. Public statements about Epstein and Johnson. Trump occasionally mentioned Epstein in interviews from the late 1980s through 2010, generally calling him a friend in the past, but later saying he wasn't close with Epstein and had a falling out. Trump never publicly acknowledged Katie Johnson by name in any formal statement beyond broadly denying the allegations in 2016. But again, she made the claim about Epstein also. So why didn't anyone do anything about it? Why didn't the Trump administration do something about it? I mean, that's what I don't get. But it seems, to be honest, it seems like Trump did something about it, but they made an attempt to shut it down. Like, it seems like that's what kind of went on. Like, arrest, since things were starting to come out, the best thing they could do is arrest Epstein, put him in a cell, and basically shut down the entire thing, frame everything around him and Maxwell, right? Well, the problem with that is that other people are saying it's not just him. It's not just Epstein and Maxwell. People are saying it was also Trump. So, yeah, I think people can always question what makes victims speak out. But I think anybody that really understands what happens to children is children usually feel the least powerful. And they usually are on survival mode, and, to kind of ask that about kids, why they didn't speak up when it happened, I think is very telling about anybody's understanding about these issues. It's kind of weird. So you got to just understand, time and time again, kids don't speak out often about this. And if you look at the particular background of these people that they preyed on, they didn't come from stable homes. You see, so or they didn't come from the best homes, if you could say that. A lot of them were in trouble in some way or another, or at risk children. So
true, which for Epstein.
But if you notice, Todd Blanche points to Biden. Why didn't Biden do anything? You just heard him say that. So my question is, why didn't you? If Todd Blanche takes this serious, then why didn't Trump the first time around?
We're actually not withholding anything based upon NDI.
I mean, did Todd Blanche mention Katie Johnson? What does Todd Blanche think about Katie Johnson? What does Todd Blanche think about Sasha Riley? What does he think about those claims? Why do you think they're not being asked about that right here? What do you think the deal is? Do you think they're being told that they can't ask about him? I mean, do you think that's it? It's an easy question to ask. If there's nothing to it, why wouldn't you just answer it, right? Why is it so hard to ask? I mean, no one knows. No one else would know besides Trump and the people that were there. So what's wrong with asking?
Deputy Attorney General Prince, thank you for your time. 2 questions for you. Number 1, pushing politics aside and everyone else aside, some of the victims of Epstein have expressed frustration with the entire process. I want to give you the opportunity to speak directly to them.
Well, I don't know what you're speaking to. I mean, if there's frustration with, quote, the entire process, same here. I mean, you have...
Yeah, I bet he's more frustrated than the victims, right? This is bullshit. Do you hear what he just said? I mean, if you hear what these people said about what happened to him, He's talking about he's frustrated the same way. Same here, y'all. I'm frustrated too.
Have expressed frustration
If that's not gaslighting, I don't know what is.
with the entire process. I want to give you the opportunity to speak directly to them.
Well, I don't know what you're speaking to. I mean, if there's frustration with, quote, the entire process, same here. I mean, you have a situation where for many, many years, nobody even breathed a word about Jeffrey Epstein. And then all of a sudden, it was all anybody would talk about going into the last spring and summer, culminating.
Oh, is that when they started talking about it last spring and summer? That's when he first noticed Epstein. That's weird. How long he been working at the Department of Justice? Let me ask that question. How long has Todd Blanche worked at the Department of Justice? How long? How long? How long? I mean, this is very telling. He has a long history at the U.S. Department of Justice, y'all. Guess what? I mean, you know, this man has oh my God. Since look, time, private practice. Okay, man. In any case, how the hell did he not know about this? How long total DOJ work? Approximately 15 years. Okay. Pre-private practice. A long break, 10 years working in private law. Returned to the DOJ. So he just returned. But it doesn't matter. He was Trump's lawyer, personal lawyer. How did he not know about none of this? He was Trump's personal lawyer. Look, before he was in the Department of Justice first, then had a private practice where he was Trump's lawyer. And all that time, he didn't hear nothing about none of these allegations. Nothing about Katie Johnson. I'm starting to think he might have worked on Katie Johnson's case. Like, has he ever contacted Katie Johnson? They should ask him that, you know. Have you ever contacted Katie Johnson? You know, I mean, come on. It's obvious the dude is flat out lying in front of everybody, you know.
Well, I don't know what you're speaking to. I mean, if there's frustration with, quote, the entire process, same here. I mean, you have a situation where for many, many years, nobody even breathed a word about Jeffrey Epstein. And then all of a sudden, it was all anybody would talk about going into the last spring and summer, culminating in the passage of the Transparency Act. And President Trump has said for years what I think everybody will find to be exactly true, which is detailing his relationship and lack thereof with Mr. Epstein and what he thought about Mr. Epstein. And notwithstanding what the department has been saying for a very long time, we're still where we are today. Listen.
Yeah, that's why the Congress had to pass a law to get them to release the Epstein files that they still haven't released. I mean,
victims of Mr. Epstein have gone through unspeakable pain, and there's nobody that should say anything differently. And I to the extent that there's frustration, I understand where that comes from, just from what we know about Mr. Epstein. I hope that the work that the men and women within this department have done over the past 2 months hopefully is able to bring closure.
Nope. He just started off asking him, you know, saying that the victims are frustrated. What the hell is this guy not hearing? The victims are not satisfied.
I think that what we told our reviewers is that was the goal. You know, there's this mantra out there that, the Department of Justice is supposed to protect Donald J. Trump, and that's what we were telling. That's not true. That was never the case. We are always concerned about the victims. When we said that we were not legally...
Did they meet with the victims? Did they interview any of these victims?
...allowed to release documents, that's a fact. That was true. It remains true today. And then with the Act's passage, we are able now and directed to release documents, which is what we are doing. But so hopefully...
But Trump's afraid it will hurt his friends. Trump has friends that he's worried about. That's what Trump has been saying.
Hopefully some of those frustrations are now eased. Listen, any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. If frustrations are now eased. Listen, Any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. If
Have done so, hopefully.
not, they should.
If not, they should.
The prosecutors from this case in New York have given hundreds, if not thousands, of hours to working with victims, and that's what we do every day, and that's what we did in this case as well. So,
Very quickly, can you assure the American public that President Trump, like every other prominent person whose name came up in relation to the Epstein files, that all documents, photos, and anything relevant to him connected to the case are being released?
I mean, yes, I can assure that we complied with the statute, we complied with the act, and there is no, we did not protect President Trump.
But they haven't complied with the act because they haven't released the files. So they're late. The law has already been broken. You know, what's up with this guy?
We didn't protect or not protect anybody. I mean, I think that there's a hunger or a thirst for information.
Trump himself has said he doesn't want his friends to be hurt. He's talking about people in the Epstein files. This guy's acting like he doesn't even hear Trump say this stuff.
Information that I do not think will be satisfied by the review of these documents. And there's nothing I can do about that. But President Trump, of all the people in
they gave Ghislaine Maxwell a cushy cell. They interviewed her and they said there's no one else to prosecute. If there was, they would do it. Then they found out now that Ghislaine Maxwell is saying there's 4 other people that are definitely, or 29 other people that have something to do with this, that signed secret deals to not be prosecuted. And he claimed he didn't know anything about it.
Washington, D.C. and around this country that have said for years the same consistent message about Jeffrey Epstein as President Trump. And
what? Oh my God, y'all! This is all cap. This is cap.
So there's not been a change of course or anything, and certainly his direction to the American people and the Department of his direction to the Department of Justice was to be as transparent, release the files, be as transparent as we can, and that's exactly what we did.
I want to clarify your remarks on the Alex Preddy killing. Are you saying that the Justice Department has opened a civil rights investigation into his death?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, look, and I know there's been a lot of discussion among the media around that, but just think about what that means.
He said they opened a civil rights investigation into Preddy's death. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't hear that before.
All that means is that DHS, as the Secretary has said, is conducting an investigation, as they should and as they do every time there's a tragic event like this. And the FBI, in their role, which is a separate role from DHS.
Okay, so they did open one. Officially open a federal right. Okay, so when did they open it? When is this? 2 days ago? A day ago? When did they open it? What date did they open it? Let me see here. January 30th, today. Can y'all believe this shit? It is today. They just opened it today. So look, listen to what he's saying. He's describing it like they did this shit days ago. It's today. He's like, I don't understand why the media is talking about we not opening the civil rights investigation.
Is conducting an investigation. And that's exactly what we did.
The Justice Department has opened a civil rights investigation into his death?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, look, and I know there's been a lot of discussion among the media around that, but just think about what that means. All that means is that DHS, as the Secretary has said, is conducting an investigation, as they should and as they do every time there's a tragic event like this. And the FBI, in their role, which is a separate role from DHS, is also looking into it and conducting an investigation. And that's not that shouldn't be treated as making news. It's just we've said that for a week, and it remains.
Oh, no. They said it for a week. It just happened today. Look, U.S. Department of Justice officially opened a federal civil rights investigation into Alex Pretty's death on Friday, January 30th, 2026. That is today. That is just now. This just happened, y'all. This is fresh off the plate. This has just happened. I need to ask, what time did they do it? Because, damn, it's early in the U.S. It's like, what time is it in the U.S.? It's the afternoon, right? And then it's 3 o'clock. So this just happened in the last couple hours. Look, that's when Deputy Attorney Todd Blanche publicly announced it. Okay, so so look, is there any paperwork? Is there any paperwork? It's upon his announcement just now. It's been opened officially just now when he said it.
As true today as it was last Sunday when I
What
said
the
it.
hell?
From DHS is also looking into it and conducting an investigation, and that's not that shouldn't be treated as making news. It's just we've said that for a week, and it remains as true today as it was last Sunday when I said it.
Two questions for you, one on topic and one separate.
Speak up a little bit.
Yeah, two questions for you, one on topic and one separate. On topic, do you have any information that you could just share? Because 3 million documents is a lot for people who are watching this at home. Are there any new names or new people, public people in positions of power who your department found in these filings?
I don't have anything to share about what's new or not new, and no, I don't have anything to share about that.
And to follow up on that, do you have a reaction to the arrest of Don Lemon overnight?
Do I have a reaction to what?
To Don Lemon's arrest overnight?
Do I have a reaction to it? I don't know what that means. What are you looking for me to do? Jump up and down? No, I don't have a reaction to it. I don't know that the charges are unsealed yet. So no, I can't. I'm not going to comment on that.
Thank you. You said this is the end of the Epstein, of your review of the
Okay. They've been talking about it for a week, but they didn't do anything about it until just today.
Epstein files. So just to clarify, is the public going to learn the identities of the men who abused the girls with the information that you're releasing? And if not, why not? And then I have a quick follow-up.
I mean, you just baked in an assumption into your question that I have never said and I don't know to be true. Is the public going to learn about men that abuse these girls? Like, what does that mean?
What does that mean, y'all? What does it mean? I mean, isn't that what this is all about? Isn't that what this is all about?
I don't understand what that means.
Well, I mean, they're the men who abused the young women through Epstein's.
Look, we said in July, and it remains as true today as it was in July. If we had information, we meaning the Department of Justice, about men who abused women, we would prosecute them, right? We talked about the work that we're doing. That's why I said that. I said this earlier. There's this built-in assumption that somehow there's this hidden tranche of information of men that we know about that we're covering up or that we're choosing not to prosecute. That is not the case. I don't know whether there are men out there.
So they gave Ghislaine Maxwell a cushy cell. What did they say about her comments when they interviewed her? Did they say that they felt that that she was being honest? Let me see. What did Todd Blanche say about Maxwell's interview? Did he say he trusted her statements as being true, or did he cast any doubt? Let's see here. Did he make any kind of comment about it? I'm just curious. All this is in the public record, so I'm just curious about it. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Here's what's said. Here's a clear Justice Department transcripts reporting about how Deputy Attorney Todd Blanche handled Ghislaine Maxwell's statement, especially whether he affirmed them as true or cast doubt on them. Okay. In the DOJ interview conducted by Blanche, Maxwell repeatedly denied ever witnessing inappropriate sexual behavior by Donald Trump. Said she never saw Trump in a massage setting or inappropriate conduct with anyone. Claimed she saw no evidence of any Epstein client list of powerful associates. Those were Maxwell's statements. Blanche did not publicly declare Maxwell's statements as true, nor did he endorse them as factual. Okay. In the release transcripts, Blanche asked questions and followed up on Maxwell's claims, but there's no part of the DOJ transcript where he says, I believe this, or definitely characterize her testimony. His role in the interview was to elicit information. But he didn't elicit that information. That's odd, right? That was his goal. Now she's saying something else, and that's key. He wanted to elicit information. Now she's giving new information that he didn't get before. And exactly, this is what we were saying is problematic about it. Because she got something from them and didn't even give him the real information. When the department later released the transcripts, the DOJ did not issue a statement saying Maxwell's account was verifiable. Okay, let's see here. Look, Maxwell's attorney described her as having answered honestly, okay, and truthfully to the best of her ability. Outside observers noted that this type of interview is unusual for the DOJ deputy attorney generally, and that Blanche's past as Trump's defense lawyer raised questions about the impartiality. Okay, so yeah. In any case,
that I said this earlier, there's this built-in assumption that somehow there's this hidden tranche of information of men that we know about that we're covering up or that we're choosing not to prosecute. That is not the case. I don't know whether there are men out there that abuse these women. If we learn about information and evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But I don't think that the public or you all are going to uncover men within the Epstein files that abuse women.
So he's saying that he's sticking to the same thing. So Epstein, he was a child trafficker. According to Todd Blanche, Epstein was a child sex trafficker who only and Maxwell also, who only trafficked kids to themselves, nobody else. That's what they have so far. They don't have any indication that anyone else was involved anywhere near any girls. There's no accounts of any girls being exploited. Nothing. Just nothing. Nothing's there. They don't have any evidence to prove nothing. Nobody else, just nothing there. And so you can't expect any names to come out of this. Just because there's nothing spooky or fishy going on in it.
Unfortunately.
Okay, then just to follow up on the investigation into Federal Chairman Jerome Powell, is the Justice Department, what's the status of that investigation? Now that President Trump has nominated a new Fed chair, is the Justice Department looking to bring a close to the investigation into Chairman Powell as soon as possible?
I don't have a comment on that, on the subpoenas that were issued. I don't think the timing of President Trump's decision to nominate somebody is a controlling factor in any investigation.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on Alana's question. So you're saying that the shooting investigation of Alex Preddy is now a civil rights investigation. You're implying that that's always been the case. Can you also say what about the shooting of Renee Good? I mean, why not is that a civil rights investigation?
I didn't say it was always the case. I said it's the same thing that we said as of last Sunday, with respect to last weekend. There are thousands, unfortunately, of law enforcement events every year where somebody is shot. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice does not investigate every one of those shootings. There has to be circumstances or facts, or maybe unknown facts, but certainly circumstances that warrant an investigation. So when I talked about last weekend, and
what is the First Amendment?
When others have talked about this week, the fact that President Trump.
I mean, that's what civil rights cases are about. First Amendment is one of your civil rights. Was it violated?
Trump.
Illegal search and seizure, right? Was that violated? Fourth Amendment on Renee Good. Was that violated? Right? I mean, what about illegal use of force, deadly force? You know, come on. This guy acts like there's nothing in those videos that could be that you can question. None of it's civil rights issues. Nothing there. You know.
Has said repeatedly, of course, this is something we're going to investigate. That's what I meant about what we're doing. It doesn't mean that every time that there's a federal officer-related shooting, that's something civil rights takes up. It depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, I don't understand it. This is on tape. And everyone is asking about people's First, Second, Fourth Amendment rights, Fifth Amendment rights. Everyone's asking about that. What happened to their rights, to the protesters' rights? Do they have rights? Do people have rights when engaging ICE? What are their rights? Do their Bill of Rights still apply or not? I mean,
Follow up on that, can you just, I know you can't be specific about details of the investigation, but can you kind of just characterize the scope of the Preddy investigation, what kinds of things that they'll be looking for, and who's involved?
Well, I mean, it's an investigation. So what do we think we're looking at? We're looking at everything that would shed light on what happened that day and in the days and weeks leading up to what happened. And that's like any investigation that the Department of Justice and the FBI does every day. It means we're looking at videos, talking to witnesses, trying to understand what happened. I mean, you're talking about
I think they said the main witness in this Petty shooting, the main witness from her car, they say that they didn't even reach out to her. Like, they didn't even want to interview her. And she was the one who had direct line of sight to these events. And like the closest. And she said that they didn't even reach out to her. So, I mean, she had to go to the media to say that, you know?
An incredibly tragic morning. And then trying to unwind and investigate that it takes a lot of time. I'm not going to prejudice what they're doing or not doing by laying any markers, but I expect that the folks that are doing this are the most experienced in this space and are doing that.
Yeah, so to follow up on that, how would a civil rights investigation work with DHS taking the lead, which is what was said over the weekend? And
how can the Department of Homeland Security take the lead in a civil rights investigation? They got their own department.
Prosecutors in Minnesota, I mean, who is involved in this? We know that there's a lot of frustration within the department, both in Minnesota and the Civil Rights Division, that they feel they are not being brought in and they are the experts here. So just to follow up, how would this work with DHS taking the lead, and who is from DOJ involved in this investigation?
I don't think that, look, I think anytime there's every single federal agency, including DHS, has a process that they use when there's something like this that happens, an internal review, investigation, however you want to call it. That's what DHS was doing, as they do every single time something like this happened. There was nothing unique to these facts. There might have been outsized focus on it because of what happened, but DHS was doing an investigation. I don't know that will stop. I don't expect that investigation to stop because we're investigating, and of course we're coordinating with them. We're not working against them, but there's I suppose potentially separate goals or potential goals in the two investigations. I mean, DHS is conducting an investigation and then
this guy sounds like he doesn't know how it works. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
The FBI conducts an investigation. It's not as if one goes one way and one goes the other, but they are.
They could. Civil rights is investigating to find out if the person's civil rights was violated. That's a particular direction. What the hell is this dude talking about?
Their own investigations.
Very clearly said on Sunday that HSI is leading the investigation, and he did not want to overstep and say anything. Was that not true anymore, or was that true at the time?
I don't think it's fair to say whether it's true anymore, okay? And I don't think it's also, I don't want to say who's lead or not lead. I don't even really know what that means in the course of an investigation. The FBI is investigating. They are for sure coordinating with Secretary Noem and her folks as well. And I expect DHS is also continuing their investigation to some extent. And there's outside folks on this. This happens, like I said, thousands.
This guy is not reassuring the public well at all. And exactly, Tia. Tia says, I was just about to say, he sounds like he has no idea how to do his job. He certainly doesn't know how to sound professional or talk to the media. It sounds like this is all on the fly. Exactly. That's exactly what it sounds like. There is almost like, I don't even understand what he's trying to say, because they have different departments that have different jobs. The Civil Rights Department under the what is it? Whose department is that? Civil Rights. Who? I mean, I just want to make sure. Because sometimes maybe I forget how the shit works. Yes, the U.S. federal government has an official civil rights division within the Department of Justice. So they have their own criteria. They have their own goals specifically. You know what I mean? It doesn't interfere with anybody else's investigation. It's a separate investigation with different sets of goals in mind. And for this guy to not simply be able to say that, he keeps saying, I don't know, we're not working. It's not like we're working against them. What? No, it's not like you're working against them, but you don't have the same role. Why don't he just come out? It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. He's scaring people. He's scaring people.
Of times a year. And it is tragic every single time it happens. And it's tragic this time like it's...
He sounds very, very defensive. He sounds very, very defensive. You know, like he has no level of responsibility. It's tragic. It's tragic what's going on. You don't understand how tragic it is? Dude, do your fucking job, man. People pay you money for this. People pay taxes for this shit. All of these departments. He obviously, he's more worried about the investigators and shit, how hard it is for them. It's like, man, are you talking about the whole world saw a man get shot at point blank range in his goddamn back several times, back, front, laying on the ground, still getting shot with his hands laid out like this on his back, still getting shot. And this dude is talking about how hard it is, how complicated, you know. Saw Renee Goodman, she got basically shot at point blank range in her head. He's talking about how hard it is.
And I expect DHS is also continuing their investigation.
No, FBI, it's under the FBI. Look, check this out. Federal government has an official civil rights division within the Department of Justice. That's different from just the FBI. Okay, you got to understand that. Here, let me see that. Is this department different from the FBI? Let's just get it clear real quick. It's a separate branch. It might be under the Department of Justice. Listen. Yes, the Civil Rights Division, CRD, of the DOJ and the FBI are different entities, but they often work together. But it's very important for your civil rights, since you're a taxpayer, to know that these are different entities. You need to know that. Okay? Yoda, no, you're wrong. They're not the same. Okay? And you just need to understand how it works. You know what I mean? Because you pay taxes for it. People get paid. This is your tax dollars at work for you, you know? But no. And in any case, Todd Blanche is totally explaining it completely wrong. You know, he could sum this up with some short sentences, to be honest with you, that are very clear and concise. He's not doing that. That's what his job is. He's number 2 in the DOJ, man. He's supposed to be able to explain this shit better. You know, it's like, come on.
To some extent. And there's outside folks on this. This happens, like I said, thousands of times a year. And it is tragic every single time it happens. And it's tragic this time like it's tragic every other time. And so there's a...
Sounds like he's fucking, you know, what do you call this? Splaining. What did they call that? He's he's cop killer splaining and shit. You know, it happens all the time.
Process that has to be allowed to play out internally with these law enforcement organizations and certainly with the FBI as well to allow this investigation to go on.
You've talked about the expectation.
You know, I think what you're talking about, Yoda, you might be talking about in the 60s, man. I get you. In the 60s, yeah, they didn't have their own department. You know what I'm saying? But they do these days.
Surrounding the Epstein files. Do you agree that the DOJ itself, senior officials at the DOJ, played up those expectations for the first half of this year? I'm just sort of trying to understand what responsibility does the Justice Department have for the criticism that has come over the handling of the Epstein files?
I'm not commenting on criticism. People can criticize all they want. My point was just to make plain that when it comes to what we've been doing the past 2 months and why we weren't able to complete the review of over 6 million pages. Okay, so you're talking about 2 Eiffel Towers, okay, of pages in 30 days in a way that made sure we complied with the act, right? So the act had multiple requirements. Get it done in 30 days. And you better not release any victim information. All right, so there's a lot of statutory construction, there's a lot of case law that exists that says that if those two are in conflict, we obviously are not violating the 30-day requirement by taking our time to comply with the act. And so my comments were direct.
So what date will it get done? After the midterm elections. For those that want to know, the Civil Rights Department, right, of the DOJ, that was established after the 1950s, 57, 1960s, after the civil rights, during the civil rights movement, it was established, right? So, and then it was expanded. It's been expanded, but before that, yeah, the FBI had to handle these cases on their own. Just they didn't have a specific department that they didn't under the DOJ that does that itself. These are 2 separate entities, But in any case, man, this
directed at this idea that because we didn't review the 6+ million pages within 30 days, somehow the Attorney General doesn't care about victims or is further doing damage to victims.
How is it that every fucking victim says they ain't doing a good job? How is that possible? Look, even this guy, Sasha Riley, right? He this is coming out and people are asking him, he's scared for his life. He's scared that Donald Trump that the Department of Justice is going to try to harm him or hinder his, hinder a lot of things, So people should look that up. It's pinned at the top of this. Oh no, it's not pinned there. I'm sorry. That's the court document from Ghislaine Maxwell. That's her new, her whatever these proceedings are called, affidavit to that talked about the 29 extra co-conspirators, right? So that's pinned at the top for those of you that want to get that. You can read it yourself. But this down here, this YouTube channel that I just threw in there, this is another victim that came out 2 weeks ago publicly in audio. I think he's been talking about it for a year now in emails, but now he's done audio interviews and it just came out 2 weeks ago. That's Sasha Ripley. Tragic history of his abuse with Trump and Epstein. Like, it is a must hear for everyone to see. Here you can even see and listen to it. You can even see the article here. Let me put it out here. Boom. It's right here. For those of you to see it, let me see if I can make it a little more accessible for people to see. Boom. Is this better? Here we go. You see that? So you can go to their website. Here it is. Green Neighbor Poll. You see William Sasha Riley interview. You see that? Go there, click like, subscribe. Yeah, I'm gonna subscribe. Why not? This is brand new. This is 2 weeks ago. Okay, so those of you that want to hear his accounts of Trump and what he claims Trump and Epstein did, my suggestion is that you go listen to it. Any questions that might pop in your head, like, how come he didn't say anything? You might want to listen to the tapes. The answers are probably inside of there somewhere, right? I'm pretty sure they are, and that's a normal question to ask, but listen to the tape, man. The tape can tell you better than I can, definitely in this regard. But in any case, I'm gonna let this play out, and then I'm gonna be out. I'll see
Because
you
of
guys.
that, because exactly the opposite is true when it comes to the Attorney
Yeah,
General.
Dylan, appreciate you, man.
Sir, I have questions on Epstein and Minnesota. First on Minnesota. For transparency,
All right,
would you
Rafika, I
commit
see you too.
to
Thank you.
releasing
I appreciate everybody who came out today in the chat,
the
and the listeners also. I appreciate y'all.
body cam video from federal officers that was involved in that shooting and their names at a point when the investigation can allow that? Will you make that public? And I did not hear clarity on whether Renee Good's case is also in the civil rights realm.
I'm not committing to anything with respect to that investigation that would be completely unfair to the investigation itself for me to stand here and,
That doesn't make any sense. They're two separate entities. They're there to do their own separate jobs. If there is any, for 1 second, if it looks like someone's civil rights could have been violated, just could have, even in the slightest, they're supposed to open up their own investigation separate from what the FBI does and anyone else. It's that simple. And keep in mind, the federal government is not even cooperating with the state on these investigations. So there's a lot to be said about this. And thank you, Tia, for the Substack, the direct audios. Yeah, exactly, y'all. Y'all see that in the chat. Nothing that he's saying. I'm just saying this. This is not a criticism. I'm telling you, technically, what the man is saying is wrong. It's just not right. You just have to understand that. It's not how it works.
A point when the investigation can allow that. Will you make that public? And I did not hear clarity on whether Renee Good's case is also in the civil rights realm.
I'm not committing to anything with respect to that investigation that would be completely unfair to the investigation itself for me to stand here and commit to something for any reason. It depends. It depends on what happens with the investigation, and that's a decision that was made by the folks that are working the investigation. As it relates to Ms. Good, I don't, like I said before, there's investigations that happen all the time with respect to shootings like what happened last Saturday, and cases are handled differently by this department depending on the circumstances.
On Epstein, sir, if I may just ask one on that, please. You mentioned a letter to Congress. How and to whom did you notify the White House about the production that you're announcing today before you came out and spoke to us?
How did I do what?
Notify the White House. What was your interface with the White House? You said there's a letter to Congress. Who did you update at the White House about this?
Well, I don't know. I don't really understand the question.
Exactly. I knew he was going to say that because that is an on-point question. And keep in mind, it's hard to get these journalists in there because they don't even want them in there.
You mean, who did I update?
Out and spoke to us.
Circumstances.
On Epstein, sir, if I may just ask one on that, please. You mentioned a letter to Congress. How and to whom did you notify the White House about the production that you're announcing today before you came out and spoke to us?
How did I?
You see that? So he doesn't want to lie. You see? So he's going to say he doesn't understand because, in other words, Donald Trump is telling him, he's reporting to Donald Trump and telling Trump first what they're releasing. Is this okay? And all of this shit. Listen.
Do what?
Notify the White House. What was your interface with the White House? You said there's a letter.
Did you notify the White House? What was your interface with the White House? He knows what the question is.
To Congress. Who did you update at the White House about this?
Well, I don't know. I don't really understand the question. You mean, who did I update?
Did you provide them an explanation of what today's release would be?
Look, my team has certain communications with the White House. Let me just be clear. They had nothing to do with this review. They had no oversight over this review. They did not tell this department how to do our review, what to look for, what to redact, what to not redact. They absolutely knew that I was doing this press conference today and that we were releasing the materials today. But there's no oversight by the White House into the process that we've undertaken over the past 60 days.
I wanted to ask a question about
In other words, he didn't talk to anybody there about it. You know what I'm saying? Come on now.
the evidence in the Alex Preddy investigation. Early on, our reporting showed that The only type of evidence that the FBI initially had in its possession that it was processing for ballistics and DNA, et cetera, was Preddy's firearm. It did not have the two firearms that were used to shoot Preddy. Those were in the hands of HSI, and also there were concerns about chain of custody, things not being properly bagged and tagged, et cetera. Where are the guns now? Are they in the FBI's possession and being reviewed at one of their labs? And who has the phone that Preddy was using and filming? And is that going to be reviewed by the FBI?
I don't know. I don't have an answer to those questions.
Wow. He doesn't know. How long is this? How many days after is this? You know?
Look, I think that there's Secretary Noem is been clear with the American people, but also with the Department of Justice that we're doing this together. We're coordinating, and
they're doing it together, but they don't know.
And so I'm not
exactly. Will we ever see his videotape? Exactly, Rafi. Will we ever see his phones recording? Will we ever hear what was being said? Anything going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. And he's
following in the weeds about who actually has possession of the firearms that were discharged.
Something the FBI would need in order to conduct a thorough investigation into this is obviously a color of law case.
When I said I didn't know, I wasn't being critical of the question. I was just simply saying I don't know.
On the Fulton County seizure of ballots, local officials there, election officials say those materials were set to become public by February 9th, and that the Justice Department could have simply asked for them. Why was it necessary to conduct a search warrant? And do you expect the affidavit in that search warrant matter to become public anytime soon, or do you have any comment or explanation as to why that was necessary?
Listen, I'm not going to comment on. It's a criminal investigation. I will not comment on it. I will say that it should be no surprise to anybody in this room or anybody watching that election integrity is extraordinarily important to this administration. Always has been and always will be. And so the fact that President Trump and this administration are investing.
President Trump was sued. They were sued. Let me see here. How much did they settle? Did Trump settle a lawsuit about Dominion voting machines? You know, it's important to keep this in mind when he's saying these things, because it almost sounds like none of this stuff he's heard about any of it, you know, and it's all public information. So let's see here. What does it say? Trump was trying to say the Dominion voting machines weren't right. Wasn't that part of the 21? Let's see here. Okay, hold on. It says Donald Trump personally did not settle a lawsuit brought by Dominion voting systems. Oh, it was Fox News, right? It was Fox News. So, you know, I mean, this is Fox News' legacy media. How much did they settle with Fox News for spreading lies about the voting machines? $787 million. That's how much they got, almost $1 billion. Okay, let me see. Let me see. Did Trump make comments? Let's just see here, just to make sure. I'm pretty sure he made comments about it, you know, leaning in that direction. Because, come on, this is part of the conspiracy. You get Fox News to say the lie. You get others to say the lie. You get the chitter chatter on the internet to say the lie, to spread the lie. And then Trump is like, hey, the election's rigged. Yes, Donald Trump has publicly commented about Dominion voting systems and voting machines, and his statements have often repeated claims connected to the 2020 elections, including allegations about Dominion, even though those claims have been widely debunked and rejected in court. Here's a clear breakdown of what Trump has said or done publicly regarding Dominion voting machines. Repeated claims about Dominion machines after 2020 elections. After losing the 2020 election, Trump repeatedly made false claims that Dominion voting machines were used to manipulate or flip votes against him. He made that claim himself. You hear that? He made that claim himself. Now listen to this.
Be no surprise to anybody in this room or anybody watching that election integrity is extraordinarily important to this administration, always has been and always will be. And so the fact that President Trump and this administration are investigating to make sure that, are investigating issues around elections to make sure that we do have completely fair and appropriate elections should not be surprising, but I can't.
So they started this years ago. Almost $1 billion. Fox News got sued by Dominion for almost $1 billion because people made lies, including Trump. Trump repeated the same. So you can see this is a conspiracy, right? After losing the 2020 election, Trump repeatedly made false claims that Dominion voting machines were used to manipulate or flip votes against him. He suggested that the machines could switch votes with the turn of a dial or change of a chip. These statements were made on social media and in television interviews by Donald Trump. Important context: independent fact-checking and official statements from federal and state election officials confirmed there was no evidence that votes were deleted, changed, or manipulated by Dominion machines. Look, and again, Fox News was sued. They settled. They didn't even want to go to court. Look, if Fox News followed through with the case and didn't settle, Fox News would not exist anymore. But they settled for $787 million. That's almost $1 billion. And listen to this dude talking. The president's always been concerned about election integrity. You spreading election lies. What the fuck about that? That's not harming election integrity? Spreading lies about it?
Conduct a search warrant.
And the pillow guy? Exactly.
And do you expect the affidavit in that search warrant matter to become public anytime soon, or do you have any comment or explanation as to why that was necessary?
Listen, I'm not going to comment on. It's a criminal investigation. I will not comment on it. I will say that it should be no surprise to anybody in this room or anybody watching that election integrity is extraordinarily important to this administration. Always has been and always will be. And so the fact that President Trump and this administration are investigating to make sure that, are investigating issues.
Look, you lose. Fox, a media outlet, the main one that supports him, loses almost $1 billion in a civil case about the lies that Trump was repeating, and he's still looking for election integrity issues. Like, when's it going to stop? And again, it didn't matter. I guess they didn't have in their whole thing about immigrants baked in the cake back then. They didn't have that bit, that immigrant Trojan horse. But now it's also baked in, because now it's about, can immigrants vote? We need to make sure. But this same shit has already been proven. So where does this guy live? Where does he just give up and just say, fuck, I lost the election? At what point? You see what I mean? And now anything that gets done by Trump, if he goes to any state with ICE, he wants the voter election information. And do you know what that information is? That's your date of birth. That's your name. That's your address. That's your political party. That's who you voted for. At the same time, let me see here. Is this up? Let me see here. Hold on. At the same time, Elon Musk, it's now come out that Elon Musk, right? They found out that Doge actually took people's private information from the Social Security Department, name, date of birth, address, all of these things, and gave it to super PACs to influence what? To influence elections. Look, yes, according to recent Justice Department court filings and reporting, this is Trump's own Justice Department admitting this. Operatives working with the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, did access and mishandle sensitive Social Security data, including Social Security numbers and other personal identifiable information in ways that violated agencies' protocols and potentially federal privacy laws. Very simple. So this is happening at the same time. What does that tell you? You know, all I can tell you is, listen, if you're a liberal, and you never thought about owning a gun before, you might want to think about that now. You might want to think about going and getting your first gun registration official and make it official. You might start thinking about that, because there seems to be no indication that this administration is going to respect people's fundamental Bill of Rights. Like, just very simple. You know, and I'm not saying that as a joke. I'm saying you need to prepare, because they do not seem to respect the law. You know, like, just straight up, not your rights, not when it comes to your rights. You know, Trump has said everything to, I'll invoke the Insurrection Act. All they got to do is invoke the Insurrection Act, and then we don't need an election. Listen. I mean, you can't pretend anymore that this is not real, because this is all the things that he has been saying himself out of his own mouth. You see, this is what they're doing. And it's sad that it has to be that way, but it being sad and it being crazy does not mean it's not true. Yes, Donald Trump has said things that critics interpret as suggesting he would be open to not holding elections if certain conditions prevailed. And he has also mentioned the Insurrection Act in ways that raise concern about undermining democratic norms. But the context matters. Legal experts in White House both pushed back on the idea and said that he was serious about ending elections. Oh, right. They pushed back on that idea that he wasn't serious about that. That's what they're saying. He wasn't serious. Trump suggested U.S. shouldn't even have elections. January 2026, Trump was quoted in a Reuters interview saying something like this: "When you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election," referring to the 2026 midterms. After discussing the accomplishments of his first year, I'm saying this is his own words. So, you know, listen, around this time, Trump publicly discussed the possibility of invoking the Insurrection Act, 1807 law, right, that allows the president to deploy U.S. forces domestically under certain conditions to respond to ongoing protests, especially in Minneapolis after the controversy. You see, so he's talking about ending the elections totally separate anyway, totally separate. Now you got two different lanes to end the elections. Two different ways that he's talking about ending elections, you know? So people may not want it. It may be a horrible thing. Is it right? No, it's totally wrong. It's totally wrong for your voting rights to be hindered. It's totally wrong for, you know, elections to be disbanded. It's totally wrong to be harassed when you're trying to vote. It's totally wrong to be targeted by super PACs or organizations that want to hinder certain people's vote because of their affiliation to a certain party. That all those things are totally wrong. Is it likely that it will happen? It's highly likely that it will happen. It's highly likely based on what Trump says, you know? So, yeah, and that note, yeah, sad, but I will get back to you guys, man. You know, I wish I had something better to say, but I don't, not right now. But to everybody fighting back in the U.S. and trying to uphold your rights, doing everything you can do to uphold everybody's rights, you know, my heart goes out to you. My respect goes out to you 100%, because I know this shit is not easy at all. Yeah. And as I always say, you know, reach out to each other. The small things matter a lot in these times. If somebody is in need, try to organize in your neighborhoods to help each other and to solve whatever needs, because it looks like this administration wants to break the American people's back. You know what I'm saying? And to oppress people. So, yeah, on that note, I'm out. I will get back to y'all soon. I will be going live. I'm going to go live from the rally tomorrow, from the demo in front of the U.S. Embassy. So look out for me. I appreciate y'all. All right. One. Impeach Trump. They want war. Crime babies looking for food. Starvation, the recipe. People subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day in every clue. Don't let it go. It's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep. Even 7 roads to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and I feel we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die. You voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers. Cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather. I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in a way that's subtle. If you stop the machines for a minute you might hear, but they won't cause the TV's whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't fear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison. They want war. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War.
sometimes I think about, does love still exist? Yeah, I have my doubts. On the street, I check out how brothers be living. Yo, let's just say, kid, it ain't no Thanksgiving. We got people shooting dope, ain't never heard of hope. We got others with the gat and the brothers with the fucking scope. As I enter the project center rec rooms, some brothers might see the doom. I see my nigga Paulo, fat pockets of papes. He knows the neighborhood biddies with all the dopest shapes. There goes Rollo with the blowout fro. He's got a gat, ayo niggas gots to go. No show is live with narrate, fuck Memorex. My nigga Rollo's got a gat in Paulo's chest. One slug blasted out, down boy died. Now show me some love, kid, it sounds like a fucking yes, you lie. know the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong. Sometimes I think how the world come to this. A place where every man and woman needs a therapist. Mass confusion, people living in delusion. Justify all the bullshit through the Constitution. Meanwhile, the masses struggle to survive. I think we're too busy to hear our people's cries. Singles mothers struggle to raise families. Genocide committed through famine and disease. I wonder if these things will ever cease to exist. I know it could if we cease and desist. Giving all the power to the industrialists. Giving all our power to the damn commercialists. They see us just as being sheep in this world. That want us to do what we're told like boys and girls. Oh God, I wanna live another day so I can help provide equality and this yes, you day. know the struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. Though we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong. Everybody around the globe, open up your earlobe, your third eye, and then decipher the code. Through knowledge, understanding, then bring love into the concept instead of bling bling. Truth instead of biased educational methods. Twisting, contorting God's message of love for every human being. Listen, motherfucker, don't you hear the screams? It's time to do much more than talk, debate, and spread hate. We need to think and at the same time investigate. Understand what our actions may create. Before continuing the cycle we procreate. We can clone humans, but at the same time we can't feed humans. The future of man is actually looming. It's really depressing, it's true. And yes, you know the struggle goes on. People trying to survive.